Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Stanley of Sin No More Ministries here to encourage you all to support Sal's Showtime on Debate Talk for You. Those that have been showing support, you have been such a blessing to this powerful ministry in so much that this show is still on the air because of your heartfelt love gift. For those who are unable to give, we are still praying that you reach down into your pocket for $1. Yes, that's exactly what I said. I said $1. That same paper that you use for that vending machine. Amen? That dollar will make so much of a difference in this ministry. If you go to PayPal and set up your account, you can do it in so much that they can only reach out $1 every month from your check. You won't even feel it. And the show will stay alive on the air because of you. You'll have such powerful debates every week for years to come. So go to www.paypal.com, then use the email debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. That is debatetalk4 to donate. God bless you all.
Shema Yisrael, Yahuwah Eloheinu, Yahuwah Achad. Shalom, this is Brother Jason of the Hand of Yah Ministries, where the name of Yahuwah is proclaimed. And I want to thank Sal Showtime for allowing the Heavenly Father to use him and his show, Debate Talk for You, as a meeting place for people around the world to hear scriptural truth. If this show has been a blessing in your life as it has been in mine, send a donation to the ministry and support the work. Keep up the good work, Sal, and may Yahuwah bless us all.
I come to you today in peace. My name is Emunah Yisrael, recent author of The Angry Quote-Unquote Black Woman Syndrome Revisited, Volume 1, Her Mind. It is a hot new piece all about the mind of the quote-unquote angry black woman. How does she operate in this society? How has slavery affected her? Just opening up really a 200-plus-year-old stereotype. So if you haven't taken a look as yet, go ahead over to www.emunahyisrael.com and you can definitely check that out. Or you can just go to Amazon and look up Angry Black Woman Syndrome Revisited and see us there. You can check me on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, everything under Emunah Yisrael. So until next time, thank you for tuning in and definitely be the change that you desire to see in the world. One.
Greetings from the I Love Being Black movement. We have the largest black Facebook page with over 6 million fans worldwide, and we're offering advertising options at affordable rates. If you want to increase your reach with loads of new fans, then this is absolutely the best way. We also offer seminars, consultations, and strategic planning services by Kumi Raouf, aka the Social Strategist. Why not contact us today at ilovebeingblack.com or call us at 310-807-5775. Cheers.
All praises, all honor, all glory to the supreme intellect of the universe. This is Nasi Yashuvel of Shomrei HaTorah in Atlanta. And if I'm not reading my Torah or suplexing some false deity, I'm listening to my man, Sal Showtime, and Debate Talk for You Radio. Beautiful. Keep doing the good work, brother, bringing forth the information and spreading that love.
My name's Kiaja, and if you want to hear the best debates in the world, come check out Debate Talk for You, hosted by my dad, Sal Showtime. Bye.
Shalom Aleichem, Israel. This your brother Zadok ben Israel, assistant teacher at the Congregation of Israel, the Knesset of Jesus, located in Buffalo, New York. We believe in the full, uncut Word of God from Genesis to Revelation, and we seek to share the truth that the Holy Spirit has witnessed to us. So if you are interested in finding out more about our ministry, please visit us at www.congregationisrael.net. You can also find our teachings on YouTube under my namesake, youtube.com/Zadok ben Israel. We also have a page, Knesset Yeshua, KNESSETYSHUA. You can also find us on Blog Talk Radio every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, on the Growing Stone Bible Study Show. Go to blogtalkradio.com/Nazarene. And if you feel you just want to reach out and talk to us personally, call us 866-78-BIBLE. Shalom, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk for You Radio.
Yeah, Shalom. I want to give a shout out to Sal at Debate Talk for You. What's going on? Hey, Debate Talk for You is where it's at. You know, get your verses straight, put your cell phone record, come on board, present what you got. If anyone try to cut you off, Sal will just mute that guy's mic. You know, he'll let you express what you got. He'll let you present what you studied for. Let the audience decide if what you got, you know, is inside the scriptures. Debate Talk for You. Once again, shout out to Sal. Terrific job. Hey, you can press the number 1 or find yourself on a lion's den.
Out here in Birmingham, UK, we stay tuned to that Debate Talk for You radio show. Just want to shout out my man Sal and all the other hosts. Make sure you keep it locked right here from the Express Truth. Peace.
This is Ronald Francoeur representing from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I'm not busy in the studio, I'm checking out Debate Talk for You radio. Keep up the great work, Sal Showtime.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another show. You're now listening to Season 6 of Debate Talk for You Radio. Of course, this is Sal Showtime, and it's the brand new segment called the New Relationship Challenge. So far, we have Volume 4 right about now, and we have a lot of great feedback so far for this particular show, and we appreciate everybody that's been supporting and sharing their feedback and sending me the emails in regards to this particular segment, the Relationship Challenge. Today's show is entitled, Did the Messiah Abolish the Law of Divorce? Today's show, once again, is entitled, Did the Messiah Abolish the Law of Divorce? Of course, this segment has been created by my co-host, Emunah. She's here. Matter of fact, press number 1 if you're out there, Emunah. You got to press number 1. And special guests, if you didn't press number 1 yet, you got to press number 1, and we can add you in the conversation. All right, so this is Emunah Yisrael. Welcome to the show.
Greetings. Good evening, all praise be to the Most High. What's up, Brother Sal? Greetings to everyone who's on the line. This is Emunah Yisrael. Thank you for having me once again.
Yeah, once again, appreciate you. Let people know what you got going on. Is there anything happening? Let people know about your YouTube channel, those who are unaware, stuff like that. You got to promote your stuff. Go ahead.
Oh, boy. Emunah is always into something, so please be on the lookout for another book coming very, very soon. That one is called Solonomics 101. If you've been following the videos, I always say Solonomics 101. So this is the do-it-yourself soul improvement guide that should be out shortly. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then we have on the children's side, we have myself and my young daughter. We have completed a children's book named My Brother, My Keeper. So definitely take a look out for that, and I'll let you know when that is released coming up soon.
All right, I'll let them know about the website, where to go, check out the merchandise.
www.emunahYisrael.com. Emunah Yisrael on all social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You'll definitely be able to catch up on some of the videos. And if you have something going on that you like to interview, I usually do live interviews, so definitely reach out and we can have that conversation.
Of course, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have the First Lady of Debate Talk for you here tonight on the Relationship Challenge. Let's go to my brother Ahwar. He's here right now. Ahwar the Swordsman, welcome to the show.
Hey, shalom. Shalom, my sister. How you doing?
Shalom, brother Ahwar. What's going on?
I'm all right.
Good to hear you.
All right, Ahwar, you ready? You ready for another classic show tonight about this particular topic?
Yes, sir. You know what? I'm here, brother.
What about you? Anything that you want to let people know about, or you want to promote anything that's going on with you? Let them know. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look out for my controversial show coming out called The Real New World Order. And I might get arrested. It's going to be without no chaser. You know how I do. So listen out for that. Oh yeah, and I want to tell you, if you get a chance, I'm supposed to, this guy named Nazi. Mitzvah or something like that. He wanted to debate me on this Esau topic. I'll send you the information. All right?
All right, cool, man. You know how we do when the Lions, then we can set that up. I definitely appreciate that. My next special guest is Zadok. He's here tonight joining us on a Relationship Challenge. Welcome to the show.
Yo, did you say me, man?
Yeah, man. What's going on, man? Welcome to the show, Zadok. How you feeling?
Yo, I gotta get used to using this Skype number. I'm used to hearing my my New York area code. Yo, man, what's poppin'? It's your brother Zadok in Israel. God bless you all. I'm definitely honored to be asked to be a part of this discussion tonight. I'm familiar with Ahwar. I've heard the Queen speak a few times. I think she handles herself admirably as a daughter of Sarah. And I'm just honored to be here. I don't know who else is on the discussion, but whatever I can lend to it, may y'all be edified. Thanks for inviting me, man.
Yeah, but being that you on the phone, let people know about the new album, brother.
You know I don't be trying to selfish plug, but if you insist, I will do this. My name is Zadok Ben Israel, a.k.a. the God Hop MC, hashtag just a vessel, nobody special. If you want to get at me, you can follow me on Periscope, Instagram, and Facebook, Zadok Ben Israel. Get at me on Twitter at the God Hop MC. And basically, I do have an album out. I am what some people call a Christian rapper. I am a Messianic Israelite who got spit game, and I glorify the Father and the Son and the nation through it and give him all edification and honor. And I have an album out that's called Freedom. You can find it on iTunes, Amazon Music. You can get it on you can get it on the Google Play Music Store. Just type in Zaydok. It'll come up, and you can actually check it out. And if you like some of the songs in the preview, then I hope that you would go and support some God-centered music in the midst of a music industry full of madness and glorification of sin. So, thanks for that, Sal.
Yeah, that's Brother Zadok right there on Debate Talk for You Radio. Has been there since season 2 of Debate Talk for You. One of the veterans has been on the show. And Sister Mayanah, if you out there, we have a lot of people on the phone lines right now. You got to press number 1, and we can add you in the conversation. Once again, Mayanah is going to be here tonight. Very powerful sister, that's been coming on the show, and getting a lot of great feedback from her as well. So if you're out there, you're going to have to press number 1 because we have a lot of people out there on the phone lines. Just press number 1. We can add you in. All right, I guess there we go. Okay, I got you. All right, Mayanah, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Shalom, family. I thought I had pressed number 1. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking. Shalom, everybody. Thank you for having me back.
All right, so anything that you want to put out there? You're not going to ask you, though. Anything you're going to address or put out there, you can let people know. Go ahead.
You guys have me feeling like quite the underachiever, but at the moment I haven't completed any of the projects that I have received a lot of support and encouragement pursue. So, to not cause a disservice to the people, I would absolutely engage in those projects immediately, post-haste. So look out for several projects in the future. Give me 1, 2, maybe 3 months, and I'll hit you up for a little something.
Oh, yeah. You're definitely trying to put me out there, put that information all across the globe. We appreciate you being here on Debate Talk Radio. Once again, like I said, today's show is entitled Did the Messiah Abolish the Law of Divorce? Of course, we're going to start off with Emunah addressing the topic, and then we're going to go around the panel and, dialogue about this particular topic. And once again, if you're listening on social media, if you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, you know that number. You could chime in. The number is 646-716-7320. That's 646-716-7320. So we press number 1, and we can add to the conversation. We like to hear from the listening audience out there. It's all about the audience getting answers to their questions. All right, so Mona, you can go ahead and address the topic. Go ahead.
Once again, I want to say all praise be to the Most High. I want to thank everybody for joining us. This is very interesting. I thank God for the opportunity for us to address these very important topics. For those who may be new to the relationship challenge, what we have been doing thus far is one by one, addressing topics that have been divisive within our community, very divisive, based on whether it be a misunderstanding of doctrine, misapplication of doctrine, or just erroneous, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm just very pleased that the feedback that we've been getting and the conversation that we've been having. So today, without further ado, we're going to talk about divorce, because definitely if you've been following the track, if you lay with her and think she's your wife, and we already established that that's problematic, you understand? And because if you married because you're burning with lust, that was last week, then you get to the point where I don't want you anymore, and now I want to divorce you, and then it's going to go into whether or not I can or I can't. And so this is where we're at today, and a lot of places that people often go is to the conversation that the Pharisees are having with the First Testament Messiah. And so for this reason, we wanted to go in here because there are some who says that he did away with divorce. And so, therefore, if you're in a problematic relationship or marriage, you have to stay there until death do you part. And there are others who say Moses allowed it and the First Testament Messiah cannot abolish it. So that's the conversation that we're going to have today. Prayerfully, we booted up and are able to go in to decipher what is being said in these texts, namely in the book of Mark, chapter 10, as well as in the book of Matthew, chapter 5 and chapter 19. So these are some of the places that we're going to begin to go. If we can start off on the things that we've heard and then see if we can come to some resolution concerning what we think it says versus what it actually says. And then, as always, hopefully we'll be able to hear from the audience. So that's basically the overview of what we're going to be going into today. And so with that, Brother Sal, whoever's ready, let's go. We could definitely start at Matthew 5 because that's where that's the first reference that I came across as it related to the New Testament addressing the issue of divorce. So at this point, I'll relinquish the mic.
All right, so Mona, who you want to begin to address this particular topic?
We can definitely give it
to Zadok.
Okay. Brother Zadok, we've had Brother Ahwar on several times, and so we'll just open it up to Brother Zadok to what he has heard or what he teaches, and then we can go from there, around. We just go around the table.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you.
All right. Well, first of all honor and praise is due to the Most High, yeah. And once again, it's an honor to be here and be a part of a meaningful and necessary discussion. I don't think that the men and the women in the nation talk enough with each other because there is, unfortunately, a lot of stereotyping and a lot of bad doctrine of old that has continued to have precedence and credence in a very male-dominated world, and whether right or wrong, even inside the quote-unquote church body, it is still a male-dominated area. The planet, as a matter of fact, is male-dominated. Even though we're outnumbered by the female part of the female gender, as far as power and control, males are still outnumbering sisters. And what's happening is, I believe that there are some things that are said in Scripture that aren't always looked at through the spirit, through the through the lens of the Spirit. And what I mean by that is, if Yeshua truly, if Yeshua ben Yosef of Nazareth is the revealed Mashiach, then there's something that was spoken of him in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, right quick. And I just want to read that for edification. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, it says this about him. And me being a man who has been with one woman probably 90% of my adult life, I've been with one woman for the last 16 years, all praise due to Yah, and he has given me the ability to be able to stay faithful and humble to her. I didn't say perfect and without reproach before her at times, and neither her me, but through all of that, faithful and dedicated to her and to her only. And I believe that I've been made a better person because of it. In my personal experience as a husband and as a father and as a son who was raised by his mother, and having being one son of my mother with three sisters, three of her daughters, my biological brothers actually all being from my father's side of the family and not my mother. I grew up in a household where I've always been outnumbered by women, and there are things that have happened to women, and there are things that I've seen women do that I don't like and that I do like. And there's things I've seen happen to them that I don't like and that I do like. And so from my personal experience, which was edified, the bones thrown away that weren't necessary in my iniquity-shaped upbringing, in the word of Yah, shaping my mind as a man, the things that I'm going to share come from them two things. So may he lead my tongue. In the book of Isaiah chapter 11, the Most High says this, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the spirit of Yah shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, and the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of Yah. And shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yah, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears. Now, Yeshua, or whoever the Mashiach is, if you don't accept it to be Yeshua ben Yosef, then whoever you think it may be coming, this individual is going to have this quality that a lot of us listening, and even myself talking, are probably egregiously lacking in. And that's the ability to judge without necessarily making a precedent upon what my eyes see, nor either what my ears hear. And I believe that in the reading of Torah, many times the letter is put out there, and the Pharisees show that they egregiously tried to enforce the letter without understanding the spirit of the law. And why I say that is because a spirit, which God is, who desires to be worshipped in spirit and truth, gave his Torah, which is also spirit. Yeshua said, the words I speak, they are spirit and they are life. So outside of the Peshat understanding or interpretation of it, the other aspects of it are even deeper. And I'm going to read this one thing to you guys. Let's go over to the book of Malachi, chapter 2. In the book of Malachi, chapter 2, it says this in verse 14. Now, whether this is an effigy of male and female, or some people want to think of the leadership and the body of the nation, however you want to think about it, the principle still applies, whether literally or spiritually. Yet, this is Malachi 2 and 14, yet ye say wherefore, because Yah have been witness between thee and the wife of your youth. Or actually, he talks about not regarding the offering of the people anymore and not receiving it with goodwill at their hand. And they would say, well, why is this between us and our God? And it says, because he have been witness between you and the wife of your youth, against whom you have dealt treacherously. Yet is she your companion and the wife of your covenant. And did he not make one? Yeah, yet had he the residue of the spirit, and wherefore one? That he might seek a godly seed. Take heed, therefore, to your spirit, and let none of you deal treacherously with the wife of his youth. Now, many men have dealt treacherously with the sisters that have been brought in their possession or in their vicinity who they want to take for a possession. See, I am under the impression that the correct woman, the prudent woman, is given unto us by the Most High to actually help save our lives. And in turn, we are to help save her life, not by anything of our flesh, but by the influence of his spirit shining from me to her and the influence of her spirit shining from her toward me. If a man truly could hate his own flesh as is written in the letter of the apostle, then you could understand him not dealing with his woman in the same spirit of tenderness, nurturing, seriousness, reproof, rebuke, instruction as he would his own self. And if any man would look at his woman and just because she gained weight, she don't cook like I like, I'm tired of her mouth. You know what? Our intimacy levels haven't been where they've been, and she's tired all the time, and, you know, she's busy thinking about other things. Whatever the excuses could be, she don't really listen to what I got to say anymore. Whatever your excuses are, if you believe that any of them things are a prerequisite for divorce, then I believe you misunderstand the intent of Yah in bringing the male and the female together in the first place. And I will say this lastly, because I don't want to be overly long-winded. I want to hear where this is going to go. When the bill of divorce was given, as Yeshua said, because of the hardness of your hearts, I don't believe that's always the hardness of the heart of the male either. Women can be hard-hearted as well. And some women can actually cause a man to desire to dwell in the corner of a housetop rather than live in a broad mansion with her if she is a brawler and one who is like a constant drop of water on the forehead. So it's not just males there in the spirit of it, because in Christ there is neither male nor female. So the gender bias aside, I am under the impression that it is the fault of prideful men and women, because pride only by pride does contention show up. So when we look in marriages, there could just be a pride issue in the male to try and find a reason to get away from his female because he's lusting after something else and think the grass is green on the other side. And sometimes you have some women who could be so overbearing and who could be so wicked in their heart and disposition toward the male that they're pushing him away. But I would say if you feel your woman pushed you away, brother, if she haven't committed adultery and slept around on you, but yet just her attitude is causing you to feel not comfortable in the living situation, pray God and walk in his faith, because I will guarantee most of the time that his faith being exuded through you will outlast any intent of a carnal situation, whether it's from the female side or the male side. So I'll just say that for now and humbly step back and just hear how this continues to go. Thank you for allowing me to go first.
Oh, wow, sorry. Thank you for that, Brother Zadok. You opened it up. You touched on many points that I hope the listening audience is definitely taking notes at this point. And so at this point, we're going to go ahead and hear from Sister Mayanah as she opens up on her thoughts on this conversation. Sister Mayanah, are you there?
I want to thank the brother for so thoroughly addressing the general topic. I think that because the topic is about whether or not the first century Messiah abolished the law, I think that I'll start there. I think that there is a misconception that was probably conceived in the church that the first century Messiah did that in his dialogue when he was questioned about Moshe's passing this ordinance down to us from the Most High, that this law goes into action, and that his answer initially seems to be a little elusive, and because his answer isn't immediate and direct, the Christian community and then later the Messianic interpretation and the way it is received tends to follow in that line that Hamashiach is going to go against what Moshe established under the orders of the Most High. So it's good that we went into Malachi 2, because you look at Malachi 2nd chapter 13 through 16, although it's true that some people would like it to be a broader thing having to do with leadership and the congregations, the Most High is very careful and deliberate to say that I am the witness between you and your wife, the wife of your youth. So it's not necessary to think of this in symbolism or a metaphor or an effigy. It's indeed pretty straightforward. That the Most High said, I've seen you. Being treacherous, by the way, just for any clarification, being treacherous means to be deceitful and unfaithful. So the idea that the men have been unfaithful to their women and they have been deceitful to their women, and that lends itself to the answer that the Messiah gives, that there's the hardness of the heart. Whether it's true that it goes back and forth between the male and the female, that's not contested. I would have to concede that, absolutely. I mean, we see throughout the Proverbs, and Solomon, who would know, right, who would know pretty much all of the moods and behaviors of women, complains bitterly of women who are brawling and contentious, and says it's better to be in the corner of a rooftop than be in the company of a contentious woman. But having said all of that, it doesn't detract from the fact that the law is established in Deuteronomy, that it's very clear, and that this law of divorce, although the female may be a contributor factor, traditionally it is not women that issue writs of divorce, irrespective of whether or not she is a participant in the discord of the household. She is not typically she's not typically empowered, traditionally empowered to initiate divorces. So I'm hoping that, I would like for us to kind of go from there, beginning with the topic and moving from the topic and actually looking at and interrogating what the first century Messiah actually did say, what the questions were, what his responses and reasonings were, and then we can try to flesh out where the disconnect is between Torah and the first century testaments and letters.
Okay. Well, that was the voice of Sister Mayanah. So with that said, I guess I'll make it more narrow, let's say. Okay, in Matthew 5, and thank you for that, sister. In Matthew 5 and 17, the text is saying something very interesting that says, do not think that I've come to abolish. This is the question. Did he abolish the law of divorce? So that I came to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill. And then he goes further to say, I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not the smallest letter, not the least stroke of a pen will by any means disappear from the law until everything is accomplished. And then he says, anyone who breaks one of or the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So, again, he's talking about heaven and earth, which is still present before us. And I'm the person who's always bringing it into the now. So heaven and earth is before us, and he's saying that nothing can be changed. And as the sister just brought up, as we begin to look at and we go over to verse 32 of the same chapter, he begins to speak on divorce now. And the reason for divorce, the only legal in his estimation or right reason for divorce is marital unfaithfulness. And this word gets oftentimes confused as to what exactly is that marital unfaithfulness. So not to jumble up the whole issue, can we first start at what is this marital unfaithfulness as it relates to Matthew 5 and 17, and how is this now? The marital unfaithfulness, and secondly, no, we're just going to stay there. I'm not even going to jump all around. The marital unfaithfulness, what is that? Can we get a clear, decisive answer on what exactly is that marital unfaithfulness as it reflects in Matthew 5 and 32? So, Brother Ahwar, the mic is yours. If you could shed some light on this for us, and then we'll go around the table to hear what it is that we have understood concerning this marital unfaithfulness. So, Brother Ahwar, the Swordsman, the mic is yours.
Right. Well, the first thing I want to do, like what I always say, if you get lost in the forest, you got to go back to the beginning, the point of entry, to understand where you're at. So what I want to read first is where we at as a people in prophecy. This is Baruch 3, verse 8. It says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquity of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. Hear, Israel, the commandments of life. Give ear to understand wisdom. How happeneth, Israel, that thou art in thine enemy's land, that thou art waxing old in a strange country, and thou art defiled with the dead? That's where we are as a people right now. So what we need to do is, let's go back to the beginning of the purpose of why men and women were created. This is Genesis 1, verse 26. I'm going to start at Genesis 1, verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. And God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over it. So that was our purpose. We weren't created to be divided. Now the question is, what happened from the beginning to now? We were in our enemy's land in captivity, and we have all these varieties of divorce, separation, whoredoms. How did we get to that point? And then we're going to bring in why the Son of Man had to implement this will back and take away that whole thing of divorce. And I'm going to prove that. Now, let me read this. Let's understand what happened. This is the wisdom of Solomon. I'm going to go behind it. I call it behind the scenes. Things that work, like how do things happen that happen? Like how did we get to this point? What was the mindset that pushed the people to go evil, to go in the wrong way? We're going to go to wisdom of Solomon right quick. It says, so let's get to the problem. I like to get to the core of the problem. Why? Why are people divorcing so bad? Why is marriage hated? Why are men marrying men, women marrying women? Let's get to the core of this. This is Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon in Apocrypha. Hold on one second. Let me get it. Here's the Wisdom of Solomon in Apocrypha. And I'm going to give it right back. I don't want to hog the floor. Hold on. This is 2 verse 23 and 24. It says, for God created man to be immortal, going back to what I just read in Genesis, and made him to be an image of his eternity. So what we're dealing with is the will of the Father. The will of the Father was for man and woman to be together till one die, till somebody die. That's the will of the Father. Then it says, nevertheless, through envy of the devil came death into the world. So this is what happened. This was an entity called the devil, which is spoken of in Genesis throughout the whole Bible, intervened into the will of the Father. This is what caused the divorce, that law of divorce had to be implemented during the time of Moses because we became so evil towards each other. So we got a reason from that point. And I'm going to come back on that because I don't want to hog it. I got a couple of things else. And let me read one more, and then I'm going to leave it like that. Then I'm going to go into the divorce. This is Romans right quick. So we read about the interruption, which was the death that Satan brought in, that we're still in. We're living it out. And this is Romans. Hold on one second. Check this out. This is Romans. I'm going to get right back to you. This is Romans 5, and they addressed it right here. This is Romans 5, verse 14. It says, nevertheless, death reigned from Adam. So that death I just read about, it started during the time of Adam, and it said, nevertheless, death reigned from Adam to Moses. What happened during Moses' time? That's when the law of divorce was implemented. When we came out of Egypt, that's when Moses brought in, and he told us, he gave us that law of divorce. Why? Because of like the brother read, the hardness of our hearts. Then it said, even over them that had sinned after the similitude of Adam's transgression. So this problem that we have going on today go all the way back to the Garden of Eden. But I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to build, and I'm going to go into divorce when we come back or when I get the floor again. That's all I'm going to say on that.
All right, thank you. That was the voice of Brother Ahwar. Brother Ahwar, just a quick question before I go on to the next panel member. So in your estimation, based on the topic of the conversation, did the Messiah abolish divorce? Are you on the yay or the nay side of that conversation?
Yeah.
So in your estimation, he abolished the law or the prohibition of the allowance of divorce?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I guess let me go around the table and just get a yay or a nay, and then we could work our way from there. Because again, we're trying to flesh out the conflicting thought processes, and ultimately for the listener who is listening, to be edified, because people are in real life situations and circumstances where we need to really get to the bottom of this. So I'm gonna go to Sister Mayanah, then I'm gonna go to Brother Zadok to get a yay or a nay on your understanding. Did the Messiah abolish divorce? Sister Mayanah?
Nay.
Sister Mayanah?
My answer is nay.
Okay, Sister Mayanah says no. Brother Zadok, did the Messiah abolish divorce?
No, he didn't.
All right, so we have a no from Brother Zadok, we have a no from Sister Mayanah, and we have a yes from our Brother Ahwar. And so that's very good, because it's clear now that we're working from two different understandings, which is beautiful because it gives us an opportunity. So like I was saying, and then I'm going to give it over to Sister Mayanah and come to Brother Zadok. As it related to Matthew 5, one of the stumbling blocks that seems to be a stumbling block is the defining or the understanding of marital unfaithfulness. And the reason for this is when we go to 19 as well as when we go to Mark and 10, we see the Pharisees in a conversation. In one text, the conversation is asked, is it lawful to divorce for every and any reason? In the next text, the conversation is just asked, is it lawful to divorce? And so we want to continue to look at these things and see, Sister Mayanah, did you come to, during your research, any further understanding of marital unfaithfulness and what that looks like based on the fact that you said, no, he did not abolish divorce? The mic is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Where there tends to be a disconnect in this particular discourse is the idea that the first century Messiah is saying that in the case of infidelity, sexual infidelity or adultery, that is the single reason for a single valid reason to divorce. Under any other circumstance, that would not be the case. But, just like Torah 101 lets you know that the penalty for adultery is death. You don't get a brand new shiny spouse when you commit adultery. You don't get a new chance and a new. Like there's a phrase, living in adultery. This is Christianese. This is not a term found in Scripture. This is not a thing. You can't live in adultery. You die come adultery. So what we then are faced with is the dilemma of what does he mean? Right? Because, okay, if he doesn't mean adultery, what does he mean when he's saying fornication? So when we look at fornication, we find that it's referring to the Greek word there is porneia, and obviously the common word, that was familiar to us is the word porn. So once again, we're thinking about, okay, see, Mayanah, there is some kind of sexual deviancy that he's speaking of. But yes, indeed, he is speaking of sexual deviancy, but again, he is not speaking of divorce. We know, those of us who have studied the Old Testament, the original Testament, that there are a list of illicit, prohibited sexual acts and unions that are not suitable arrangements for marriage. There are prohibitions that we do not allow. That you cannot sleep with your sister, you cannot sleep with your father's wife. There we have a list of prohibitions in Leviticus 18, and you find them repeated in Leviticus 20 along with their penalties. So when he is speaking about fornication, he's speaking of these types of sexual deviancies, he's speaking about the sexual deviancies that the Israelite audience that he's speaking to would immediately understand, because it's something that he's not talking at this point. He is speaking to people who are questioning him on the law. The Pharisees are questioning him on the law. So the law necessarily is going to be Torah. So in Torah, the things that are prohibited, sexual prohibitions, are listed in Leviticus 18, and I said, along with their penalties in Leviticus 20, and that is what he is referring to. And we can find that as we go along in this conversation, we'll know that this is we'll be able to prove it because of the penalty that he attaches to this act. There in the Torah, when we get in Deuteronomy, when we're given the law of divorce, we find, and I mentioned this last week when divorce was brought up, or when this was brought up, divorce happens, it's a valid divorce when two things are in place. You have to have both the writ and there has to be a physical separation. So there's the karatut and then there's the shalach. And both the shalach and the karatut have to be in place at the same time. You cannot have one without the other. So wherever you find the shalach alone has happened, then this is the penalty of an illicit union and not a valid marriage. So when we dig a little deeper and after you go along and around the table and we go back and visit this, and we're going to look at these words, we'll define some terms, and so that we're all on the same page, we all have to have at least the same understanding in terms of what terms are being used, what laws are being referenced, and whether or not we are truly going to be comfortable with saying that the Son of Man is going to, go against Torah after specifically saying that he will neither change the laws nor go against the prophets. And to say that he has abolished divorce, he's doing both. He's going against Moshe and he's changing a law.
All right. So that's the voice of Sister Mayanah weighing in on that marital unfaithfulness. She quoted that the word is actually porneia, for those who want to look it up, 4202 in the Greek, and it's translated as fornication. Brother Zadok, thank you for that, Sister Mayanah. Brother Zadok, concerning that issue of marital unfaithfulness, if one was to go to this text, what is your understanding on this, as it is that the First Testament Messiah is giving this as the only acceptable reason for divorce? So what does it look like? What does it sound like? What in the world is marital unfaithfulness?
Well, I'll tell you this. May I humbly be led by the Ruach to say this correctly. Anytime the Pharisees came to the Master, it was not to have an honest conversation, first of all. I don't find one time, unless it was a Pharisee who wanted to talk to him on the side because he believed low-key, you know what I'm saying, like a Nicodemus or something. I don't find them ever being in a position where they're coming to the Messiah because they want to learn from him. They're trying to catch him up in something, because if they could catch him up and clearly point out that he is anti-Torah as far as Yah's Torah, his instruction, then I'm not under the impression that he ever would have made it to Romans, because he could have got stoned for breaking Israel's Torah. That was the penalty. So any man who would uphold anything that was anti-Moses, if you will, at that time, I believe they could have easily got the people to see against him. And remember this, Yeshua himself said to the people, even his own followers, when the Pharisees come to you and they tell you stuff about Torah, do what they say, because they sit in Moses' seat. Just don't do like they do, because basically they're hypocritical. So just like the woman caught in divorce, they got caught out there. Yeshua didn't even answer them. He answered them in a way where he caught them out there because they were actually breaking Torah and bringing a woman. I'm under the impression that they had an egregious misunderstanding of Torah, to the point that when he said what he said, no man was able to come back at him. So I want to point that out first. Secondly, the so-called Mishnah that people rely on today, that we find in Talmud and Gemara, whether it's the Babylonian Talmud or one of the other versions, in the Gemara of the so-called rabbis from the middle of the 2nd century and on, if you look at some of their discussions, some of their so-called Peshat interpretations of divorce and things of that nature, you will see why Yeshua was able to swing heavenly sword at them boys and they couldn't do nothing. Why? Because in Torah itself, in the Torah, there is, I believe there is an understanding of what unfaithfulness is. And the sister, I believe her name is Mayanah, she said it correctly. There was no get out of jail free card if a man and a woman got caught in adultery, like the crowd claimed they caught the woman in the very act when they brought her before Yeshua. There was no do-over. You did. It's proven, at least 2 or 3 witnesses pop up, you done. So first of all, let's go to something here right quick. I want to look at Deuteronomy chapter 24 right quick. Where we at? Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 24 right quick. And it says this, verse 1, when a man have taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes. Now, I believe the Pharisees harped on that. Because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house. Now, check this out. Whatever is happening here, it's not her being caught in the act of anything, but there could be something that has happened that isn't always provable. And every man doesn't do this out of the spirit of jealousy. He may do it the same way that Mary did. Remember, for those of you who might, if you believe that Joseph inseminated Miriam, then this ain't for you. But if you on the side of the scope I'm on, that the Holy Spirit touched her in a way to cause her to become in conception without a male impregnating her, the story makes sense to me. When Yosef found that his woman, who he hadn't consummated with yet, was found with child, the Bible says him being a just man, he thought to put her away privately and not make her a public example. And I believe that this happened a lot. When we look up uncleanness there, in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew, the word is erva. It is I believe it's number 6172. That's what it is. And it means nakedness, nudity, shame, pudenda. And pudenda implies some type of shameful exposure. Now, my brother likes to say this, and this is a funny situation. What if a man came in a house and caught his woman with another woman? How do you rock with that, right? Let's say that's what he saw, or he saw a man jumping out his window. Let's say he didn't catch the woman in the very act, but he put two and two together. Some dude dipping out of his window, and just her having the man in his home and flirting with him, he's filling her up, whatever. Let's say this happens, but there is not another witness that can come and put her to death. That can be a shameful exposure that he's found in her, because at the end of and that's not all. It can be many different angles, and maybe these aren't the best examples, but just give me a little time here. It says he find no favor in her because he had found some uncleanness. Now, I don't believe that the man can make up that uncleanness, but I do believe that through time, as the people become corrupt, that you will find marriages ending for any old reason, which is a corruption of what Torah meant. And I believe Yeshua gave the principle. From the beginning, it was not so. If a man tried to get rid of his wife in Torah and try to claim she wasn't a maiden when he found her, and they proved him wrong, he would get beat by the elders of the city, immersed in shekels, and be forced to have to keep that woman all the days of his life. If a man had a woman who was sold to him when she was young and he promised to give her to his son when she got old enough, and he didn't, or he didn't take her in marriage, and took unto his son or himself another wife and didn't take care of her, she had the legal right to leave and he couldn't send her away empty. Women didn't always have the power to be the ones to give the bill of divorce, but just like the woman who could slap a man with a shoe and spit in his face and publicly make the accusation that he the man who refused to raise up seed to his brother, there is many provisions in Torah where a woman could come to the table and actually bring grievance, and the elders would actually go through the custom of investigating it. Now, Yeshua, in letting the people know, well, because of the hardness of your hearts, it was allowed, but from the beginning it was not so. I do believe that through time, that just as they didn't know what to do with the brother who they caught picking up stones on the Sabbath, just as when the daughters of Zelophehad came with their grievance on their father's behalf who had no sons, Moses didn't know what to do. He had to go to Yah on it. Remember, Moses didn't live forever. But when Moses gave the decree of divorcement, as the nation goes on, the Elohim or the Sanhedrin of the people would make interpretation according to the situation and circumstance. So I do not think there is a one general brush, and I believe that Yeshua was basically saying, look, because of the hardness of your hearts, the bill of divorcement was allowed to be given, because there would be instances where sometimes, y'all, believe it or not, it would be better for the woman not to be in the house of a man who had a heart to put her away for any reason. And if he got rid of her, we could look at his evil, but also look at Yah's mercy on the woman. But the scripture also says that there was a time of ignorance in men that God understood. And at that time, even Israel having a law, there are things of ignorance that Yah winked at. But once Yeshua came, it says, but now he commanded all men everywhere to repent. Even Israel with Torah didn't get it right. And I believe there were things that Yah didn't totally destroy him for. But once Yeshua came, he's going to bring the fine print out with the biggest magnifying glass possible. Not destroy the big print, as Matthew 5 and 16 says, but he is actually going to magnify the things that are written in the Spirit. And if those things are written in the Spirit, then we would understand from the beginning that even in Deuteronomy 24, that did not say, oh, hey, just give her away for any old reason. I'm not convinced that that's what that says there. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Brother Salo. Are you there? Would you like to chime in on the conversation?
Yeah, I'm actually interacting on social media with a couple of people, but we have some people on the phone lines, actually. Whenever you're ready, just let me know. But you can go ahead with the conversation. Go ahead. Let me know. Whenever you're ready for the phone lines, I got you.
Oh, okay. All right. Brother Sal is holding it down on the phone lines. Thank you, Brother Zadok, for that. I would like to say that I agree that what we're seeing here is definitely something that is not or should not be broad-brushed. I think that was the way in which the Pharisees were approaching him to try to get a confession that, you know, either it was for every and anything or basically at the whims of the masculine principle in that relationship. But as it relates to 5 and 7, because it's not necessarily specific, we do see, or we established at one point, that the family was involved in the marriage. So the question also, as we go along, is this something that would be brought back to the family as it related to when the question of her virginity was brought up? Is this grievance? Because we see marital unfaithfulness, meaning pornea, and you rightly brought up Irva on the side of Deuteronomy 24. And one would say that, you know, they're not the same thing. You know, so that one would ask the question, is it relating to the same reason that is said in Deuteronomy 24? Because I'm going to continue to read. It says, if you put her away except for this marital unfaithfulness or pornea, you cause her to commit adultery. And anyone who marries a woman so divorced commits adultery. And if you measure that up against Deuteronomy 24, one would say that once you put her away, she's free to marry. So I'm going to go over to Sister Mayanah to see if we can get any insight on her studies as to why one text is saying if you put her away, except for this case, it's adultery, but the other text is saying if you go through the divorce proceedings, she's free to marry again. So Sister Mayanah, I'm going to come to Brother Ahwar, and then we're going to test the phone lines and see what everybody's saying, and then we're going to make our rounds back again. So Sister Mayanah, the mic is yours.
So I'm going to answer your question, and I want to begin by saying that I agree with both the brothers that say that there's a disturbance in the original intention of the Most High, who ordained marriage between his sons and his daughters. Clearly, it was never his intention that we would break these unions because, as Ahwar has found, they're reminding us that when we bring it back to the beginning, we bring it back to Genesis 2, for the very first time in the narrative, we find that the Most High finds something not good in a man being alone. And he creates, literally creates a woman made for him. And that's what we find. And we find that he's very excited about this new union. He says, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. He's practically celebrating this new union. And so there is no divorce in sight, you know, in the very beginning. But as this conversation has bared out, and as the excerpt of the testimony that we're examining at the moment clearly states that there is a disturbance in the original intention, and that the hardness of the hearts of the people have corrupted that original intent. And so, for example, when the Most High created all of us, and the Most High entered into the covenant with Abraham and Isaac and with Jacob, he never intended for us to be off. He never intended to yoke us with Deuteronomy 28. That was never his intention. But we can't say, well, we're all not going to acknowledge Deuteronomy 28 because that wasn't his original intention. He never originally intended to put us under curses, so we're just going to ignore that that's the case. What happened is that despite his original intentions, we decided that we were going to pursue things we weren't supposed to pursue and incur his displeasure. And so other measures went into place. So now we have other measures for reconciliation with him, and there are things that separate us from him. And these are never his intentions, but they are the reality that we were facing. And over the last couple of sessions, we have discussed the ideal versus the reality. And the reality is that we have corrupted the intention, and now we have to face the consequences. We're not in Christendom where we don't believe that the laws have any effect. We don't believe that we are not under the law. We don't believe that we're not held accountable to the consequences of our actions. So we have to accept that we are the ones that corrupted the marriage bed. And for this reason, as the other brother mentioned, that under certain circumstances, the couple had to dissolve the relationship because it was not going according to the Most High's original intention. Even in the case that, like, for example, if the brother gave the example of if a husband comes in and sees something, but can't necessarily prove that thing, he can't bring up on charges of adultery because we know the law states that he has to bring both of them before the people so they both die. But he doesn't have both. So what does he do? Well, luckily there's a law for that. It's called the law of jealousy. We find it in Numbers, that if he has suspicion that his wife has committed adultery, he cannot prove it, he brings her before the priest, and the priest does what he has to do, and if she can prove her innocence through that, then that's what happens. So then there's also the example that he brought that women had a recourse if a man had falsely accused her. And these laws are not happening at different points along the time continuum. These are happening at the same time. So this woman would have had that resource if she were innocent and being brought up on the charge of not being a virgin, as her family had promised his family. So, but to get to, I just wanted to cover those things because they were brought out. You know, the law of the levirate was her right because that was the law. It's called the widow's law. So obviously she would have recourse. Zephaniah's daughters had a precedence with Job's daughters. Job's daughters were able to have their own inheritance. So even if Moses couldn't recall that, the Most High said, you know, the daughters are absolutely correct, give them what they, you know, do according to what they have asked. So it is true that women have historically had a voice in things, but it still doesn't negate that historically and traditionally women were not the ones who initiated this particular action. Now, to address why the first century Messiah is saying that it's adultery in this case, it's because it's adultery because if you put her away, because I established earlier that divorce has two parts. But he's not saying give her a writ and put her away. He's only giving you shala'ak. Shala'ak is just separating her, putting her away. Away a woman, but you have not forfeited your obligations and responsibilities and rulership over her. Then she's not free to marry anyone else. What gives her literally her freedom papers is that writ of divorce. You need to give her freedom papers and then send her out of her house, and then she has the ability to marry someone else. But if she just leaves, like we see in 1 Corinthians 7, we were in 1 Corinthians 7 last week, where if a woman decides to depart from her husband, Paul tells in that letter that she can't marry anybody else because all she has done is she just left. She has no writ, she has no permission, she doesn't have the ability to marry someone else because she doesn't have her freedom papers. Those freedom papers are the things that she can wave and say, listen, I have the right to marry someone else. Because as the brother mentioned, if a man married her, with the assumption that she was a virgin. He finds that she's not a virgin. He can bring her up on charge. Goes right back to the family and say, you have defrauded me. This woman is not a virgin. And her family is the ones that get to keep the physical paper, the physical blanket, the sheets or whatever that has where her blood is stained, and says, look, you are talking, you have accused my daughter falsely, and I can protect her with this thing. So now, on a remarriage, a woman obviously is not going to stay in the street again. So what does she have? She has her writ of divorce. It says, I'm not a virgin, but this is why I'm not a virgin. You cannot kill me. So if you leave without having your freedom papers, so to speak, and I'm going to say it that way because people remember it that way, if you don't have your writ of divorce, if you don't have the papers to say, this is why I'm not a virgin, but I can marry someone else because my husband has forfeited his rights to me, I can be the wife of another man. She commits adultery because she is still legally under the possession of her former husband. And that's the difference. The difference is having both things in place. You cannot halfway do it. Shala'ah does not give you the ability to remarry under any circumstances.
All right. So once again, thank everybody for joining us. Today we're talking about, did the first century Messiah abolish divorce? We're in the book of Matthew 5:17, as well as 19 and Mark 10, as it relates to this conversation around divorce. We heard the voice of Sister Mayanah just bringing forward some information that in her studies and what it is that what she has been going through, that this is not saying that she cannot be divorced. It is saying that if she is only sent away or put away without actually having what Deuteronomy specifies as both things in place, then this is where the problem comes in. I just wanted to mention, and I'm going to go to Brother Ahwar and then to Brother Sal, to the phone lines, that we see this conversation happening with the Most High in Israel, if I'm not mistaken, in the book of Isaiah, the 50th chapter, as well as Jeremiah, the 3rd chapter, where the Most High is having this conversation through his prophet to the nation. There's like, it's been said that if a man puts away a wife, he can go and take another. And he's asking Israel, where's your writing of divorcement? I put you away for your dirty behavior, but you wasn't supposed to go out tricking. You know what I mean? You were supposed to get right. And so if you want to take a look at Isaiah 50 as well as Jeremiah 3 to really get the reference point of how what we're hearing sounds like, what it looks like. It looks like, for me, just for today's vernacular, it looks like separation. Like somebody is still married, but they're separated. They may not live in the same house, and so they're separated, but the covenant hasn't been severed. And so Matthew is saying, in the book of Matthew, it's saying, if this is the case and she marries again without it being completed, then it's adultery. Brother Ahwar, what do you think about that thought process? Have you come across it? Is it in your estimation correct? Can you give us a little more insight on that?
Right. Let me say this, right? I want to read this. This is 1 John 3 and 4. Whosoever committed sin transgresses also the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. Verse 8, he that committed sin is of the devil. For the devil sinned from the beginning. Goes back to the beginning. For this purpose the Son of God was manifest. So why I'm reading this, to bring out, this is why the Son of Man was manifest, to clean up all the stuff I read in the beginning about what Satan did way back in the garden. I'm going past Moses. I'm going back to the original purpose, how that was disturbed. Now, let's go to the divorce part, what the Son of Man said in Matthew when he addressed divorce. That's why I said that, because we got to understand this, right? This is St. John 7, verse 16. Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. So what he has is not of him, it's of the Father. Okay? The Father is sending the Messiah to reiterate the will that was in the beginning. So let's address the adultery conversation right quick with the Messiah. This is Matthew 5, verses 31. It says, it had been said, where? When you go back to Deuteronomy, it had been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a bill of divorcement. So he addressed that in Deuteronomy. He's going back to what was brought out through Moses in Deuteronomy. He's addressed it. So here's the final analysis on it. He says, but I say unto you, This is what the Father commanded him to say, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, okay, which is her sleeping with another man, cause of her to commit adultery. So now what he's saying is, from the original plan, if I have a wife I'm married to, right? Now, let's talk about, say, if we came into this truth. Now we know the difference. Of course, we made mistakes and we didn't know the truth, but now you're married, you're clean, you're born again, and now you're in the Word again. Okay? If I have a wife and I put her away, this is what it says. And whosoever shall, it says, and cause of her, let me read it again to the top. But I say unto you, that whosoever shall put away his wife, saying for the cause of fornication, causeth her to commit adultery. So if you put your woman away, y'all break up, and she sleep with another man, that's adultery. Then it says, and whosoever shall marry her that is divorced. So if you meet a woman and she's divorced and you marry her, look what the Son of Man said. It says, whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committed adultery. You see how he upgraded it back to what it was in the beginning. That's why I said the law of divorce is abolished. The Most High had his Son bring it back to the original plan. You can't do that no more. So you have a lot of us doing adultery acts. We all fell into this because we're not taught the true understanding. The Most High had his Son to reiterate what he had from the beginning. Then it says, again, you have heard that it has been said of them of old time. Well, I'm going to leave it right there, but I'm going to go into Matthew 19 when we come back again and get more understanding on why divorce was abolished. But that's it. You're going.
I want to thank you for that. Before we go to Brother Sal, I wanted to just go to something. Thank you, Brother Ahwar. I wanted to go to something that I just spoke on and Sister Mayanah spoke on earlier because I'm not sure if we're on the same page in this conversation. Brother Ahwar just brought out some interesting things in Matthew 5 and 17 as it related to the thought that fornication is adultery. But as it relates to Torah, something in the nature of adultery is a death penalty and not grounds for divorce, as it is being brought out here. So I just wanted to substantiate something that was said by going to Isaiah and just reading one verse where the Most High says, thus saith the Most High, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, who I have put away, speaking to Israel. And so the assertion that Sister Mayanah made, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that here where it is in Matthew, 5 and 32, it's not, and this is the same question. Basically, she's sent away, but she doesn't have the bill of divorce. And so when we read in Isaiah 50, the Most High is saying the same thing. Hold up, I put you away. I didn't finish it. You understand? And so if you go out and do this thing, if you do not sever the commitment, I understand totally what you're saying as the ideal. But as it is in today in reality and bringing it into the now, the causing of adultery, first of all, is under the guise that you actually were married to begin with. Let's just say that. And that's something that we substantiated because a lot of people are saying or using this scripture or Deuteronomy 24 and saying that you didn't get the bill of divorce, so you cannot leave. At the same time, they were never married. So really it's harlotry. So there's many things that's going on here, and I'm speaking to hopefully just putting in my portion that we can get clarity that this text right here has not yet revealed that the two parts are present in the same way the Most High is questioning the nation of Israel to ask, are the two parts present? So just go ahead and chew on that for a little bit, and maybe we can come back and speak to that as we go forward in the text. But Brother Sal, the mic is yours.
All right, once again, the topic is, did the Messiah abolish the law of divorce? Did the Messiah abolish the law of divorce? My special guests are Ahwar the Swordsman, Zadok. We have Mayanah and Emunah. And again, we have a very powerful dialogue. If you're on social media, if you want to chime in, you get the number is 646-716-7320. As a matter of fact, if you have any more questions in regards to divorce, my special guest is here, standing by, ready to answer your questions. But let's go to the phone line now. Let's see what you got to say. Let's go to 443-815. You're live on the air.
Yeah. If you go to Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 8, it says that, then I saw that for all causes for which backsliding Israel had committed adultery, I put her away and given her a certificate of divorce. So they did get their certificate. So I just wanted to make that clear. She got a divorce, but if you read later on Jeremiah, he asked for Israel to come back. So I'm still agreeing with Paul in that if you get a divorce, the best ministry is the ministry of reconciliation, to reconcile with the one you divorced with. I believe that if you remarry after you divorce, you commit adultery because the covenant has not been severed, okay, even though there's a bill there. And if you go read in Matthew chapter 5 and chapter, the other chapter talks about divorce, you will see the Pharisees bring up an interesting argument, and Messiah takes them to the creation account. That's in Matthew chapter 19. He said, have you not read who made them at the beginning, male and female? The Messiah takes them to the creation account. When the first separation happened, because divorce really literally means separation. When the man and woman was separated at the beginning, when God said it wasn't good for the man to be alone and the rib was taken out, that's a separation, you know. And ever since then, man and woman have been trying to get back together and become one flesh. That's been going on since the beginning of the time. But, you know, I just wanted to make that clear about, I don't believe the law of divorce has been abolished. I just believe we need a better understanding of divorce. And if you go back and read Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10, not only was the wife stoned, but also the one who should commit adultery is supposed to be stoned as well. And then you go to Ezekiel, it talks about the whole reason why they're stoned. It's because the husband is angry. And to appease his anger, the stoning must take place. So I think there has to be a whole reason behind it. So people just weren't getting stoned. There was a whole process you had to go through. The husband had to be there. The one who she committed adultery had to be there. They were stoned together. So I think all those pieces of the puzzle have to be together. And that's the whole reason for the stoning was for the husband, because he was angry. And to appease his anger, he took it out by stoning, or they took out judgment by stoning. And of course, to get rid of sin in Israel as well. But I think the anger piece has to be attributed as well. And I think that's why the woman wasn't stoned, we read about in adultery, because the Pharisees was missing so many pieces of the puzzle. They didn't have the person she slept with. They didn't have that. They didn't have, they said they let the other guy get away, and they didn't bring the husband there. And if you know anything about any court proceeding, the husband and wife must be there before the judge. The wife not by herself. If you watch divorce court, the husband and wife both have to be present. So I didn't see that when the Pharisees, but that wasn't the purpose. It wasn't even about divorce. They were just trying to trap Jesus. You go ahead and read it. Yahshua. You go ahead and read the whole purpose for them doing it was to trap Yahshua. So, I think we have to have all the pieces. But that's all I wanted to say, and that's it.
All right, Emunah, you want to address anything? Go ahead. You can address it.
No, thank you so much for the caller. So I think what I heard from the caller is that in his estimation, as it relates to Matthew and Mark, the divorce, according to what the First Testament Messiah is saying, is not put away with, if that's what I heard, if that's what everybody else heard. Because really that's what we're weighing in on, whether or not this is something that in this space and time is permissible. But what I'm also hearing him say, if I'm not mistaken, is that, like what Brother Ahwar is saying, that if that person remarries, then that's adultery, because that equals into 5 and 17. Think that I came to change the law. The law does not say that if a person remarries, that's adultery. But what I'm hearing is that if the person remarries, then that's adultery. So that's definitely something for me that we can address. But it's back to you, Brother Sal.
All right, let's go to Mayanah. Yeah, Mayanah.
Okay, I agree with our sister. It does sound like we're still kind of hitting that wall. So what I would like to do is go back. Apparently I wasn't as clear as I thought I was, and I would like another pass at that. In Matthew 5, the 31st chapter, this is what's being said. It has been said, whosoever shall put away his wife and give her a divorcement. Divorce here is 647. The Greek word 647. So we see here that the discussion is about someone receiving a divorce. Divorce is 647. 532. But I say unto you that whosoever, and this is the first century Messiah responding, but I say to you, who shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, that's 4202, causing her to commit adultery. Whosoever shall marry her, that is divorce. Now, here divorce is 630. Now, the 647 is that original word that I told you. There's two parts. There's no difference here. There's two parts in the original Testament, and there's two parts here in the first century again. Originally, we have paratut for divorce. Here they have G647, which is pronounced as Greek. So forgive me. I speak English, Spanish, and a little Korean. I speak no Greek. It's something like apostasion. Okay, so that's their word for divorce. It's 467. But what's happening in his response is that this woman is not receiving the 467. She's receiving the 630. 30 is the equivalent of the shalak, which I already responded that the shalak by itself does not affect a valid divorce. So this person is not receiving a divorce, which is why she's committing adultery, because she hasn't been divorced. Even though we started off talking about a divorcement, 647, as he continues, he says the person has received only the 630. So even though the translators are recycling the word divorce in English, the Greek is holding true to the distinction. Both parts still have to be present. In one, the divorcement is the presumption is the entire package is there, divorcement. But when they say here 630, we're getting very specifically just the shalak. So that person will commit adultery if they do not have a valid divorce. If they do not have a 647 and all you have is a 630, you are in the potential realm of creating an adulterous situation, because you do not have the permission, you do not have your freedom papers, you do not have a writ, your husband has not severed his rulership and ownership and obligations over you. He has not forfeited any of that towards you. His authority over you, he has not forfeited that. That's why when we see in Deuteronomy, he can't just write up this writ. It says make sure you put it in her hands. Don't just say you wrote it. Make sure it gets put in her hands and then send it out of your house. Both of those things have to happen. And we're seeing here that in 31, there's only 647, and in 32, it's only 630. So I would encourage us not to get caught up on the English words divorcement, and do a little due diligence and look into, well, what's really being said and in the way that this is being recorded. How did the original document that was translated into English for us, what words were originally said? Does this passage in any way contradict, or in any way does it differ from Deuteronomy 24? And just by doing a little due diligence, we find that no, it doesn't. In Deuteronomy, it says it has to have two parts, and in Matthew 5, it says it has to have two parts. And they mirror, these two parts are mirrored in both of these spaces. So I'm hoping that with that information, and of course I gave you the number so repeatedly, so that you can go back and check it out. You know, it's 647 and it's 630, and those two numbers have a different emphasis, and therefore they have a different outcome.
All right, we're going to go back to the phone lines in a few, but we still have some more special guests that want to chime in. Again, you know that number, 646-716-7320. If you were listening on social media or Blog Talk, you can chime in and add to the conversation. Let's go to Ahwar guy.
I'm sorry, one second, brother. Sorry, Brother Ahwar. We haven't heard from Brother Zadok. He might be over there we haven't heard from him in a minute, so we kind of skipped him that last round. So if it's okay with you, Brother Ahwar, can we hear from the Brother Zadok, just to be just and fair?
No, I'm good. Believe me, I am over here enjoying this. Let the elder brother have his say, because what I have to say, it may be legendary. Please, brother, go ahead.
All right, best of there, Brother Ahwar. The mic is yours.
Right. Yeah, I want to go back. I want to go back and respond to what she just said, because it's kind of twisting that scripture. I'll be honest. Now, this is Deuteronomy. This is Deuteronomy 22:28, right? So, man, this is marriage right here. If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold of her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not, this is the point, he may not put her away all his days, right? Now look what Paul said. Go on to 1 Corinthians 7, verse 39. That's why I went back to the beginning. What was the purpose? Now look what Paul said. He came back and reiterated because the Son of Man taught them. It says, this is 1 Corinthians 7, verse 39. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband lives. You didn't say nothing about putting the balls in the veil or getting permission. As long as that man alive, she bound to him. Then it says, but if her husband be dead, that's the only way out. That's what they're bringing back. What was from the beginning, what I just read in Deuteronomy. If he died, that's when she can go with another man. They're reiterating that back. Okay, I'm reading again. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. But if her husband be dead, right, she is at liberty to marry to whom she will. That's what it is. That's why you go to original marriage in Deuteronomy. That's why I said he may be with her to all the days. But they gave that bill of divorce because they were pulled out of Egypt. There was all kind of chaos, and there was chaos going on. So that's why that was implemented. But when the Son of Man came on the scene, he reiterated the original purpose and plan that the Father had from the beginning. You can't dismiss that. That's all I'm saying.
Can I get
right.
a
Before you do, sis, I know you was gonna be like, can I get Brother Ahwar? You just said that Sister Mayanah was over here doing Pilates. You know, she was stretching, she was twisting up some scriptures here. But I had a question, and I'm gonna go to Mayanah. You just noted a marriage, and you said the original marriage, and we did speak about this some weeks ago. And this is not the marriage, if I may say that, the one that you just quoted is not necessarily the what's the word I'm looking for here? The picture of marriage in Hebraic culture. To find a woman in the field, humble her, and they have to pay. This is the horse before the carriage before the horse. This is violating someone's daughter, and now you have to pay in order to pay restitution to make it right. We already established that there were other things in place, and the reason why you couldn't divorce this particular woman is because the way in which it was done. And by no means, I would just like to be on record to say I'm not promoting divorce, but the reality is this is what is happening in our nation for many reasons. You understand what I'm saying? And it's also happening when there was never even a marriage. That's like trying to take back something that you never bought from the store. That's ridiculous. But needless to say, this is what's going on, and these are the scriptures that is being used. So I just wanted to point out very quickly that, Brother Ahwar, you did quote a scripture that says you can never divorce her, but that also is a scripture for a brother who just ran up on a shorty, laid with her, and now he has to go to the father to try to make things right. That's not best of it. That's not in order at either, because in that case the father has the right to say, no, you can't marry my daughter, and you also humbled her and you took her virginity, so that's low tov, or that's not good. So I just wanted to put that in as well.
I got to respond to that. The scriptures give us worst case scenarios as well. That's what you call a worst case scenario. There's instances where marriages come like that. You have betrothed, meaning a woman is married to a man that they haven't physically consummated the marriage. That's why if you lay with a woman that's promised to a man, you can get put to death just like you slept with her. Okay? Just like a married woman, I mean. Okay? So that's a worst case scenario where nothing is really different than what he did the original marriage, because that's the dowry of daughters. That's what he did. It's nothing different. The only thing is he didn't go to the father first. That's the only thing he didn't do wrong. But it's the same concept of marriage. It wasn't nothing different.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Before I go to Sister Mayanah, I just wanted for clarity. So what I'm hearing you say is that this is the worst case scenario. At the same time, he didn't do anything wrong by trespassing with somebody's daughter. That is totally out of order. You don't think?
This is what I mean. Like there's situations where a man and a woman, they know each other, okay? Instead of him going through the proper channels and go to the father and say, look, I want to take your daughter, they know each other already. They slept with each other. So then they go to the father. It's not that they did nothing wicked or out of pocket. It's just that they didn't go to the father first. And the father said, well, you know the dowry of the law of the daughters, and he had to pay that 50 shekels. It's nothing that they did off. That wasn't off. It's just they didn't go to the father, the proper channels. Just like the story of Joseph and Mary. If you really go into that story, it tell you she was espoused. And they had a date where they were supposed to bring the physical consummation together. But he violated that. He didn't do no sin. It's just that he didn't keep that custom. That's why he was worried about it. And the angel said, don't worry about that. You're all right. He didn't break no laws. It's just that he didn't go through that channel they agreed to, which is the espoused marriage. So go ahead.
All right, okay. I just want to say one more thing, and I'm going to give it to Sister Mayanah. The first time we see somebody not going through the proper channels, brothers Simeon and Levi thought that was a great offense. They thought it was a great violation, and they murked the whole town belonging to Shechem because of making the daughter to be a harlot. So these are the things that we're talking about as to how we view humbling someone's daughter, how we view violating someone without going through the proper channel. So I think this is a great addition to the conversation as we continue on speaking about, for those who just joined us, did the Messiah. I know we went to a little sidebar for a second there, but did the Messiah abolish divorce? Sister Mayanah, as we go back on track, the mic is yours.
Sis, I agree that it's a good thing that was introduced because it does allow us to re-examine sort of a blight on the marriage process to begin with, because it was interesting and a little disheartening to hear Ahwar say the only thing this guy didn't do. That was a huge thing that he did not do, because this idea that couples get together, they hook up, and then, they go and talk to the parents, that's completely modern. In the Hebraic context that we are in and we are discussing is that couples didn't make those kinds of decisions. Elders made those kinds of decisions. Unions were not done between couples. They were done between families. So to usurp that process was huge. This is why he has to pay a penalty. And it may sound like a small penalty because we don't understand the weight. Well, I understand the weights and measures, and I can explain it to you why this is a huge amount of money. This is a huge penalty that they are paying for usurping the process, because they don't think that it's a light matter that you skipped talking to her father. It's huge. It's a big deal. In 19, it's 100 shekels, and 29, it's 50 shekels. But what I want to remind you is that divorce in English, the way you're saying it translated, this put away here, it's salak. Again, it is not divorce. It is salak. He cannot put her away. We discussed earlier that when it's already an illicit, unlawful union, there's no reason to have a divorcement. The divorcement is the right of a lawful husband. If you have gone through all of the things you were supposed to do and you were somehow defrauded, you are within your right to execute a divorcement and then shall act this woman out the house. That's Deuteronomy 24. What's happening in 22 is the appropriate protocol was not observed, so that first part is off the table anyway, because you don't have a valid union. You don't have a valid union, and on top of that, you cannot shall act. You have no power. You cannot shall act her. You can't put her away. You have to deal with it. You are accountable now for what you have done, because you have defiled this woman. Provided he wants to give his daughter to you, because he just utterly refused and take this penalty from you, because he can take your money and still you don't get his daughter. So, again, I understand the excitement and in your zeal while encountering Deuteronomy 22 that perhaps you thought that there was disconnect, but the fact is that the scriptures are uniform, and the scriptures do not contradict themselves, not in Torah. In Torah, when we see Deuteronomy 22 and 24 lining up perfectly, like the best puzzle piece you can get your hands on. This is not a Rubik's Cube. It's not confusing at all. It's going pretty uniform. And when Deuteronomy 22 says that if you do this kind of sexual impropriety and you create this kind of illicit union, you shall act. And that's not in any way disconnected or in any how contradicting any of the things that we've already established, and it's happening in the same exact way when the first century Messiah says, if you do something illicit, you have some kind of porneia, then, and if you don't give her a 647 and you only give her a 630, then you cause her to do adultery because it's salah out and it's not divorce. There's still no departure from the law. The law stands. The law is consistent. The Most High makes no mistakes. He has to come back and clean up what he put into place, because it's very, we see a lot of, this is Moses' law. Moses didn't make up anything. Moses is 100% authorized to tell the people these things because these things become necessary. Now, I hear you when you say, the Son of Man came to put things back to the original order. Unless the Son of Man had removed the hardness of everybody. Just understand this, the reason for divorce is not the absence of the Son of Man. The reason we got divorced was because there was hardness in the heart of the people. If that's the reason, the Most High gives that as the reason. He doesn't say that I'm going to do this because the Son of Man hasn't been on the scene yet. So till the Son of Man gets on the scene, I'm going to give you divorce. I'm going to put you guys all in a holding cell until the Son of Man gets on the scene. He doesn't do that. He said the reason this became necessary is because you guys have deviated from the original intention. So until all of us can stop being, and it was a beautiful thing that our other brother came on when he gave his opening salutation to us. He said to us, right now, unfortunately, the women and the men are not communicating. So what's so beautiful about this forum is it gives us an opportunity to communicate and possibly give the people who are listening something to emulate, to see, that there are women and men that are sitting at the table together, breaking bread together to come to a solution together. Because unfortunately, outside of this panel, that's not happening. There's the hardness of the heart is still here. 2,000 years after the Son of Man, I can still point to women who don't respect their husbands, who are too afraid to be vulnerable to their men, who don't trust, who are suspicious of what's going on, or are so hard because of whatever circumstances they had to go through, don't know how to receive love and attention from a man without being suspicious of his motives. And likewise, the men who have had whatever their experiences have been with women before the sisters in the truth come to him, that he's not willing to receive her. So the hardness of the heart has not removed. The reason that the Most High gave us has not been removed. Son of Man is, or not, that the reason is still the reason. It didn't happen in captivity. We saw several times that division and that brokenness happened way back in Genesis. We got broken in Genesis. We stayed broken. And luckily we have really pockets of really good examples of what a marriage should look like. But we have really good, horrible examples of what happens when, things don't go right. And we are still living that way. In a lot of instances, people are still not getting it right. And the reason that the Most High gave us to be free from those circumstances, unfortunately, it's still present and relevant.
All right. Thank you so much for that. It got fired up just a little bit there, Brother Sal. Thank you for that, Sister Mayanah and Brother Ahwar. Brother Sal, are you there?
Yeah, go ahead, Zadok. Zadok, you want to jump in? Go ahead, Zadok.
All right. I said from the beginning that the Pharisees didn't ask a question. Remember, this conversation ain't just happening with your homies on the porch. This is the religious leadership which set forth law and judgment in Israel. And these are corrupt judges who take bribes. They do things out of the wrong spirit, and they do not have Yah in their heart. So I have to point to this because there's a lot of things in Matthew 5 sometimes that I believe we just take for granted that it's all Torah-based. I'm talking about straight Torah without anything added. Just as Peter in Acts chapter 10 walked in on these Latinos, if you will, the original Latinos. And he said, look, y'all know how it's unlawful for one who is a Jew to keep company or come in to those of another nation. But y'all have showed me not to call any man common or unclean, at least what he's cleansed. Now, what is the difference between what Yah showed him and what was lawful for the Jews? There were laws and prohibitions passed in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah that were not the Torah of Yah, but the Elohim of the people, which are the leadership, in trying to do things even sometimes with the best of intent in one generation, later on become corrupted in another generation. Moses did not make the serpent in the wilderness for Israel to bow to and worship. But by the time of Josiah or Hezekiah, they had to ground that thing to powder because generations later corrupt something that they got from another generation. In this same chapter in Matthew chapter 5, it says, you have heard that it been said of old time to love your neighbor and hate your enemies. You can't find that nowhere in Yah's Torah. So once again, we are dealing with the things that Yeshua is saying. Y'all done heard this for a long time. But where are they getting this from? They are getting this from corrupt leadership. And it's not always what thus saith Yah. So when the Pharisees come saying, well, why did Moses allow this? They corrupted what Moses said. And Yeshua saying, well, Moses was given that because of the hardness of your heart, as our dear sister pointed out. But even in Torah, I can prove that in Deuteronomy 24, you couldn't just put away your wife because she got fat. You couldn't, because that's not just. The just God, the Elohim who says justice and judgment are his habitation, could not have that written in Torah from him, his intent, and it be justice and judgment. But let me intimate this. I want to show that in Matthew chapter 5 and in verse 31, when it says, it hath been said, whosoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement. I don't believe he's totally quoting Torah here. I believe he is quoting, you've heard this said by leadership. Just as you heard the same leadership say, love your neighbor, hate your enemies. That is not Torah. But I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, saving for the cause of divorce. Now, for the cause of fornication. The sister pointed out earlier that word was pornea, and it means illicit sexual intercourse. Adultery, fornication, homosexuality, lesbianism, intercourse with animals, intercourse with a divorced man or woman, sexual intercourse with close relatives. All of this goes back to Leviticus chapter 18, what is called the laws of fornication and adultery. If certain things are happening, then look at the hardness of hearts. 1 Corinthians 5. I'm hearing some crap in the church that shouldn't be named amongst you as becoming saints. Even the nations frown upon what? What Reuben did with one of the concubines is the same thing Paul was addressing in Corinthians, that a man should sleep with his father's wife. Now, when you live in a society where they won't stone you to death, Corinth was not under Israelite rule, how do you deal with Jews who grew up in that culture, and how do you deal with the Gentiles who are converting unto Christ? Well, you know what? Put away from among yourselves that wicked one, then. Still carry out the principle that you've learned through the spirit of Torah, even if you can't enact Peshat on a literal basis. Why? Because in America, if I caught my wife in the bed with a man, God forbid, of course, I don't have a right by law to stone her, to bring her to some people who can stone her, anything. And we got to remember that they're dealing with an audience who is going to be in them exact upbringings. Now, check this out, and I'll end it around here. You're putting away a woman who didn't do that. In Matthew, he's saying, look, if you put away your woman, and it's for anything other than pornea, you're causing her to commit adultery. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. Now, that word divorce there is actually 630 in the Greek. And the word is apolio, and it means the one who is set free, or the one who is released from a debtor, i.e., you're not going to press your claim against him to remit his debt, one who is acquitted when accused of a crime and set at liberty. So I'm under the impression that Yeshua is saying, look, according to your corruption of Torah, you have been putting away women for centuries who didn't sleep around. They didn't commit bestiality. They didn't get caught with a woman. They didn't do nothing to a man. You put them away for another reason other than that. And Yah has always frowned upon that. In Malachi 2:16, it says, Yah hateth putting away. So first of all, you doing something he hates. And if this woman didn't do anything, guess what? The Pharisees who came to Yeshua with that question for centuries have been allowing men to put away women for reasons other than that. And Yeshua is pointing that in reality, when a woman is given a legal certificate for anything other than that, when she deals with another man, in essence, she's committing adultery. Because when you put her away in Torah, true Torah, you were putting her away into Sheol because she was going to be dead, homie. So if you done let a woman go and she hasn't done anything that was sexually illicit, contrary to the marriage covenant, you have been putting the sisters in a position to be adulterers all of these centuries, and enough is enough. They were giving out legal divorce papers under the Pharisees in corruption of true Torah. And their Mishnah, their oral Torah, is corrupt as it is unto this day. So I just want to say that that's how we see it, that no, they were giving out legal documents. And especially when you get into the Greek and Roman world where women could actually put away men. And don't forget, Roman influence was over Israelite society at that time. Israel did not do everything by Torah law at that time. Some things were corrupted and were even mixed with Roman customs. And once you get outside the land, all bets are off. So I just want to put that out there. Everything Yeshua is speaking against in this chapter isn't necessarily true Torah. It is corrupted Torah through so-called Mishnah of corrupt men who orally should not be teaching the people, because Yeshua said, even though they sit in Moses' seat, they ain't going to lift none of these burdens with one finger. I believe it was a corruption and a miscarriage of justice, and Yeshua came to magnify that your leadership has been putting the sisters in a position of adultery for centuries, because under Torah, they would have been put to death. Other than that, any other reason for putting away a woman outside of that is wicked, is evil. That's not what Yah intended. Get back to the true intent of his Torah instruction, which is divine, and according to Psalm 19, it is actually perfect, and it converts the soul. So that's all I wanted to say. I pray that it edifies, but that's where I stand.
Thank you for that. That was Brother Zadok bringing some very interesting points out. One that I want to reiterate, and I'll go back to Sal if anybody's on the line who would like to chime in. I think you brought out something that I also wanted to touch on, and I'm glad you brought it out, that the context of these two comparative scriptures that it references, one is in the context of one going into be sovereign, which is Deuteronomy 24. That means judgments are in your hands and certain abilities are in your hand. In the time of the first century, when we're reading this, there is an occupation that is happening. And the ultimate authority, even though Israel was still in the land, are the Romans and their judicial systems. So even though internally, from what I'm seeing, but then that brings the question, if it says I didn't come to change anything, but we're talking about how, like you just brought up the point, even like here in the Americas or wherever you are, if it is even adultery, or if it is even some kind of fornication or uncleanness, you cannot bring forth the judgments. So then that is a change. That is something that is happening that is saying now, this is the reason now that you can get divorced. And this, for me, I hope I'm not missing anybody. This is where the confusion comes in, that it's saying here, and as we heard before, if it's adultery, she can get put away. But we have to put it in context that they did not have the ability to take her out if it was. Not only her, the man also that was caught in adultery had to be there present as well. So the context for me is very important. I want to thank the brother for bringing that out as we're going through, did the Messiah do away or abolish the law of adultery and getting more clarity. Brother Sal, is there anyone on the line who would like to have this chime in on the conversation?
Yeah, we got more people standing by. And once again, if you're on social media, if you're on Blog Talk Radio, all you got to do is dial that number, 646-716-7320, and then press number 1 if you want to be added into the conversation. If you already called in, so we have a lot of Skype callers, a lot of people already on the phone lines, you simply press number 1 and we'll add you in the conversation. But let's go to the next person. Let's go to 240-779. You're live on the air. 240-779. Can you hear me? 240, are you there? 240. All right, going once, going twice. All right, we got to move on. Let's go to 443-815. We're back on air.
Hello, yes. I wanted to say, first of all, this is a great discussion. This is an excellent discussion. And perhaps we don't disagree as much as I thought earlier. I agree somewhat with the ladies were saying about remarriage as long as it's the fraud. Under those circumstances, I'm going to make that clear. And if we go to Matthew 5:32, before I go there, we got to understand, so when we walk down the aisle with our spouse, and those 5 words we say, until death do us part, what a lot of Americans don't know is that was not the original vows. As you know, America came from England, and we don't really speak proper English. The English speak proper English, and the original vows was the same exact words, but the subject goes in front of the verb because we don't, like I said, we don't speak proper English. It's until death we do part. The same words, but the order of the words have changed, which gives a different meaning. I'm going to say the original vows again. Until death we do part. Okay. Now, in Matthew chapter 5, verse 32, but I say to you that whoever divorces his wife for any reason except sexual immorality, and that sexual immorality means fornication. Oh, yeah, I wanted to point that out. Fornication usually means before marriage. So that goes back to the defrauding point. Because he's talking about the type of immorality that occurs before marriage. In other words, you got married under false pretenses. In other words, the husband went into the marriage thinking his wife was a virgin. He found out she wasn't. Then under those causes, then the marriage is really a fraud. So in that case, it wasn't real. So, but after the marriage, I don't believe there's cause for divorce. And let me tell you why. It can't be adultery because if we look at Hosea and his wife, my goodness, that ought to be a clear example in the Old Testament. Now, if Hosea had rights to divorce her, I'm pretty sure he would have. But he had no right. Why? Because she wasn't a virgin, number one. She wasn't a virgin. Number two is, since she wasn't a virgin, he probably didn't pay the virgin bride price, number two. And then number three, since he knew what kind of woman she was, he would have been a laughing stock because all the priest had to say was, Hosea, you knew before you get married her what kind of woman she was. That ought to make clear. We look at Hosea and his wife Gomer. If you look at that marriage, that ought to give you, there's really not an out for adultery. It's only for fornication, like Joshua says, in case you defrauded. But if you're not defrauded, you go into marriage knowing what kind of person you're marrying, and you're not defrauded, you don't get married under false pretenses, then there's really no lawful cause for divorce. But that don't mean the law of divorce has been abolished. You just got to know how you have a right to divorce. So I think that goes, and it's so beautiful, this whole discussion, because I think that once you're married, and a lot of people today, they don't even ask. A lot of men today don't even ask if their wife's virgin. So that's not even a debate. You see what I'm saying? So it's like most men when they marry their wives, they know they're not virgins. So I don't see this coming into play. Matthew 5:32. I don't see this being a cause. So so if you get a divorce, and I still think you have the right to divorce, but if you divorce and you marry somebody else, I believe you commit adultery under those circumstances. So I just wanted to say that, and then taking it back to the creation account where the first divorce happened, when the separation happened between man and woman, when they were created, and we've been trying to get back together ever since, becoming one flesh. We've been trying to do that since the beginning. We've been having trouble with it. But going back to the British vows, until death we do part, because until death we do part. We are a part of each other until death. And then after we die, see what they used to do, and if you go back and read with Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and Leah, they were all buried in the same tomb. So we all become one pile of clay when we die. So that's only when we become one again. But before then, because before then we was one body. She was the rib, whatever, and then that rib was separated. But what did Jesus say? If your eye calls you to sin, cut it out. And and it's better for You know, you don't want the whole body to perish. So men can't blame the woman for what they do wrong because she's her own part, and vice versa. You're no longer one body, but we're trying to get there. And I think that's the whole mystery of marriage, is that we're trying to work as one when we're parts. And if we understand the British mindset, we will understand, because the king and queen sleep in separate beds in the palace. You know, I'm not saying that's right. I'm just they're trying to send the message that we are parts, and then we're trying to come together. And that don't really happen, becoming one body, until we die. Well, you may agree, disagree, whatever, but I just want to throw that out there. So I'm finished with that.
All right, Ahwar, you want to chime in?
Yeah, yeah. See, this is what it is, man. You know, it's time for us to start thinking as a holy people. Okay? Yeah, we coming in on the back end that we all did these things and we don't have virgins, but now it's time to be that holy people again and start implementing this to our children. You know, my daughter, you know, you stay a virgin until you married, and if you marry a man, okay, you be with that man till you die. You know, we need to start teaching our kids that to reverse the curse, because anything else, that's how all this confusion is now, you know, has come. That's why all this confusion is on the earth, because we went away from the will of the Father. That's all I'm saying.
We have like about 26 minutes on the air, so let me jump to another caller real quick. Again, you know that number, 646-716-7320, 510-909. You're live on air.
How is everybody doing?
Well, pretty good.
Good. I have a question I want to pose to the panel. My question is, would it be okay to marry a woman that has been divorced?
All right. Let's start with the ladies. Let's go to Mayanah. Go ahead.
A woman who has a certificate of divorcement is free to marry according to the law. If she has gone through, just as you have to go through all the correct processes to be married, you must also go through all of the correct processes to become legally eligible to have another husband. According to Torah, if she has received both parts, both the Karatut and the Shala'ak, she is allowed, according to Torah, to remarry. That's the answer to your question, sir.
Emunah?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that concerning Deuteronomy 24:1. As it relates to Deuteronomy 24:1, as Sister Mayanah just said, if that is in place, you know, providing she's not up in the dude's house and you're trying to remarry her, talking about we ain't together no more. But, you know, because this is the kind of stuff Israel does. But, you know, if this is what is in place and that's what's left on record, that's what's left on record. I wanted to kind of address what Brother Ahwar said, but for the respect of the caller, I would have to say, according to Deuteronomy 24 and going down, the answer would have to be yes.
Yeah, I'm going to let you address that. Zadok, go ahead, though. Zadok.
I would say, one, according to Torah, if a woman was married, there is, look, y'all. It's clear that in Deuteronomy 24, there is a situation where a woman who is married can be can find herself in a situation of divorce, and Torah says, and she's free to marry who is divorced. But if she get with another man and something happened where that don't work out, she can't. The first man who put her away can't take her back. Now, right. I'm going to say this in the context of modern marriage, because once again, Torah is principle. How do I live by Torah principle today? Let me tell you this. If I married a woman who, before she came unto the Lord, before she even had any knowledge of and understanding of his righteousness and his saving grace, she was married before, she was in a relationship, dude was beating the heck out of her, all kind of crazy stuff, and put a gun to her face, just crazy stuff. And he left her and divorced her, and they mutually, amicably departed ways. one thing is we can't leave out the rest of the nations. The powers that be are ordained of God. The covenant Israel was given was ordained of Yah and mediated in the hands of celestial Malachim. So this was given to Israel, but it wasn't given to everyone. But they still have been given and ordained to have the power and the laws that they have. Just like Paul said, the Gentiles have a law just like we do, where we frown upon a man sleeping with his father's wife. He said that in 1 Corinthians. Also, remember, they are a terror unto the evil works, not the good. Many women in the modern world have laws that and culture they've grown up in that I will say, if I meet a woman in the church who is renewed in the spirit of righteousness, but she was married before, I'm not telling her to go back and work that thing out. I'm not. You know why? Because she's been saved and forgiven for something just like Zadok, who before he came to the Lord slept with a couple men's wives. So I'm supposed to been dead. So remember that there is a mercy and that there is a forgiving grace that supersedes what's Torah, and it was shown in David. We have become the exception to the rule, and Yeshua has become the rule in order to save all nations. Why? Because what David did unto Uriah the Hittite and with Bathsheba, by Torah, he was supposed to die and her. So them being the exception, Yah was showing us what he eventually was going to do through Yeshua. What happened to David as an exception one time that's not written in Torah has now become, at least for the time being, what Yah is doing for each one of us. Because if a woman who was married and divorced under regular cultural law before she came to the Lord, she's been forgiven just like me, the ex-adulterer. What do I do then? Should a woman marry a man who before he came to the Lord slept with two other women who belonged to men? So I'm just saying, we're going to have to walk into this thing with discernment and with judgment. And as Paul says sometimes, I'm making this say I, not the Lord, and I believe I have the spirit of Yah. So that's going to be my answer to that one.
Hello?
All right, let's get a warning. I got one.
Yeah. This is Deuteronomy 18:18. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and I will put my words in his mouth. And he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him. Now let's get some of the words that this prophet spoke. This is Matthew 19:7. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? He said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffer you to put away your wives. But, here's a but, from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. Then it says, and whosoever, he asks, should he marry a woman that's divorced? This is what the Son of Man said. And whosoever marrieth her, which is put away, doeth commit adultery. So it's out there. If you want to marry the woman and she was put away, that's on you. But I'm telling you, you can learn a lot from a dummy like me. I don't deal with that no more. I mean, I'm just putting it out. That's what the Lord said. That's between you and him now. Good.
Yeah, I'm going to let Emunah address Ahwar and some things. But everybody that's standing by on the phone lines, I'm going to get to you guys. Don't worry, I'm going to get to you guys. Again, if you're on social media, you know that number, 646-716-7320. We have like 19 minutes on the air. Go ahead, Emunah.
And now, Brother Ahwar just really brought it right back around. I pray the audience is definitely tuning in because here remains the conflict that many are conflicted with, whether or not they're going to subscribe to the Matthew narrative as well as the Mark narrative, or whether or not they're going to adhere to the law of Moses. Because herein lies the issue of what we're facing today, that and many other issues. So I just wanted to point that out. I do agree with Brother Ahwar that the coming generation that we are supposed to instill these things in them and give them an understanding. But as it relates to the mess that is present day for grown individuals who pre-existed, who are coming out of the muck and the mire and returning to the Creator and the Most High, understanding it and bringing us back, this is where the confusion lies. And this is where we're trying to, for lack of a better word, iron out the wrinkles. So Brother Ahwar just brought back the conflict once again. In his estimation, like he said, yes, in his estimation, the Messiah did away with the law of divorce or the permission of divorce. But if there are many things that we see in Torah then, which is not only divorce, that will come up. I wouldn't bring it up because that's going to spin the whole conversation. But we can't just isolate divorce and say it wasn't so in the beginning, because a lot of people going to be pulled up on charges now for doing stuff that wasn't so in the beginning. You understand what I'm saying? And so I guess that will be another show. But the point of the matter is, at this time, the listening audience really has to go into these words as it was brought out by everybody on the panel. Do your independent study, your research, and never underestimate going to the face of the Creator, bowing before the Most High, and really seeking understanding on the matter, because we are all in a position of humility, and this is where we're supposed to be in this return, to understand what it is that we're reading. There's a lot to decipher beyond what the English text is saying, and we have some of the tools to be able to do that and to continue to lean on what we think it says as opposed to what it really is saying. I think that's our issue. And Sister Mayanah brought up some very interesting points as it relates to the 2 points. The caller brought up some interesting points as it relates to fornication. And just one more thing. Again, the fornication that it speaks of in Matthew 5, Torah doesn't say fornication, and I don't think we had enough time to address that today, but Torah says uncleanness. There's clearly a word for fornication in Torah, which is zana, but we don't see zana represented here. And these are the questions that we kind of have to dig further on to get an understanding. What is this uncleanness? And is it the same thing that the First Testament Messiah is speaking about in a space and time where could they really have executed the judgments? And did he really have to say things in a way that the people could understand at that space and time? I hear also talk of going to the judges for a divorce. And my question, what came up into my mind, is if it was a family matter earlier on in Torah, how did now go on to the judge to judge these matters? Is it because in Torah you went back to the family? You understand? And the family was able to discern and judge the matters. This is why the families must be involved. So my question now is, like the brother brought up, if somebody's getting beat, if somebody's getting mistreated, if the covenant is being violated, and there's a real serious hardness of heart, and that individual is in a space where it is that it can cause them their life. And Torah says, you know what? If she finds no favor in your eyes, let her go. Are we to say, because Matthew 5:17 says this, that she's supposed to stay in a situation that could potentially be her life, and this happens? So, that was just my feedback on that. And at this point, we haven't heard from Sister Mayanah in a while, but if you would like to go to the line before that, it's up to you, Brother Sal.
Let's go to Mayanah, of course. Go to Mayanah, go ahead.
I wanted to touch on, again, I think it needs to be impressed upon that what the first century Messiah is saying is not divorce. He's saying shala'ak, and I don't know how better to say that. I'm struggling for different words to get that across. So I need that to get to the listening audience. The listening audience has to understand, and not to take it from me, because the one thing I really dislike is when people say, oh, Mayanah said. I feel better when people can say Scripture says. And I want you to go back and look at this. You can use your Strong's Concordance. If you have other and better lexicons, that's ideal. But this discussion is not about divorce. And he's talking about adultery and save for fornication. He is talking about shala'ah. He is talking about the halal, which the brother brought out earlier, which is the equivalent of the shala'ah in Greek. These are different languages. Hebrew, you're going to get shala'ah. In Greek, you're going to get halal. You're going to get the 630. So there's a 647 in Greek and the 630 in Greek, just like there is the 3748 in Hebrew and the 7971 in Hebrew. These things line up. These things are mirrored. If the first century Messiah is going to open with, I came not to to change the law or to go against the prophets and then go immediately about the business of doing exactly that, then we have to question exactly where we are going. Also, the Brother Zadok brought out that we should deal with context. Now, I tend to get over-talked and completely ignored when I bring up context, so I was grateful that, and I had a sigh of relief when he brought that up. There's a lot of Pharisee bashing happening in this particular conversation. The Pharisees were one of 4 political parties at the time, and the reason that they are called hypocrites is because they don't disagree with a lot of what Hamashiach is saying. They just don't believe that he has the credentials to say it. So they are challenging him on the law. He's absolutely right. They're not coming to him with pure motives, even though they address him as rabbi several times. They're challenging him because he is claiming to be the Messiah. So they don't disagree that the Messiah is coming. They just don't believe it's him. So they are challenging that. And they do a little slick, sleight of hand because they begin with Torah, Moses says, but then they end it with for any cause. In one of these versions of this account, that Luke, Mark, and Matthew, one of these versions you go for any cause. Now, for any cause is Roman law. Under Roman law, you can get divorced for any cause. But for Hebrew law, you cannot. So that was when we read about the serpent in Genesis, he was called subtle and crafty. It's the same thing. The Pharisees are saying, listen, let's see if you're on your game. Let's see if I can fight this passion, if you know the difference between what law we're talking about. And I'm on shit because I can give me that. So he does catch on to it. He doesn't get caught up in it, which is why, as you continue to read the first century writings, he wins over a lot of the Pharisees because they were just challenging him. They were testing him to see if he was who he says he was. But having said that, also the brother Zadok brought up David. Now, I want to remind you that we have already agreed that in order to be penalized, to die for adultery, you have to get caught. David never got caught. So I want to submit for your consideration that David is not an exception. He's evidence of the law. He was never caught. No one is going to testify against David. No one is going to say they saw anything. You need all of these things. And David is just like the woman in the New Testament, in the first century writings, is saved by law. She's saved by Torah just like she was saved by Torah. Actually, she's saved by Torah and Roman law. Because according to the Roman law, only under certain conditions could a husband penalize or kill his wife. Only under very specific conditions. Father had the right to kill his daughter, but he would have to kill his daughter and her lover. If he did not, according under Roman law, if he only punished his daughter, he could be brought up on charges of murder. So when the Pharisees brought just this woman to the first century Messiah and said, does the law say to stone her? The Messiah knew both laws. The Messiah, he already knew, listen, you didn't bring the other dude, you off on that. And you already know if I kill her and just her, they're coming for me and bringing me up on charges for murder. Nice try. So the idea of context, they know in the Roman laws of, the Julian law of Maridices. It's two complicated Greek words and another two complicated Greek words, so I'll type them up and put them on my homepage. But it's true. Context is important. Context and precepts are not enemies. David isn't necessarily an exception in this case, and Matthew 31 and 32 are not talking about the same thing. One is talking about 6:47, the other is talking about 6:30. So, like someone has said, we don't really have enough time to go over everything again or give it the kind of attention that it truly deserves. I will try my best to kind of revisit the topic and put some things on my page. If you still have questions and you want more attention to it, I'll be happy to answer those questions offline.
All right, we definitely going to go into the overtime part of the show. We have like 9 minutes on the air. I'm going to let Zaya reply real quick, and after that we're going to go to the other callers out there standing by. Again, we have 9 minutes on the air, people, so if you want to hear the rest of the show, you're going to have to call in before the time runs out. You know the number by now, 646-716-7320. If you have a question, simply press number 1 and we'll add you in. Zadok, you can chime in.
I wanted to say that what the sister was bringing out was poignant. In this context, it's two things happening in the Mark 10 and in the Matthew 5 situation. what Yeshua came to do was to magnify the law and make it honorable, as is written in the prophet Yeshaya. And then when you get into what he said out of his own mouth, I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. But what I want to say is the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, and even the Levites were all destroying Torah. They were doing what Yeshua came to do was not the same thing that they were doing. They were destroying the original intent of Torah. When we go to when we go to Mark 10, there is an answer, a situation here. Verse 2, the Pharisees came to him and asked him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? Tempting him. Remember this. Yes, it is lawful for a man to put away his wife as far as Torah is written and concerned. It is. We can read it. Notice they didn't give the depth, so they're trying to set him up, and he's going to talk to them with his setup. Yeshua is playing chess here, and I don't think that sometimes this is understood. He's not always showing his whole hand. They didn't show their whole hand, so why would he show his? If you playing cards or chess, checkers, or anything, why would you show your whole hand when your adversary hasn't? And we have to read this. I pray that the Ruach HaKodesh is with us so that we can really look at this through a spiritual lens and not just with what our eyeballs are reading. But one, they came tempting him. Simple question. Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife? Look at what he threw back. What did Moses say? So now they have to answer him. They said Moses suffered to write a bill of divorcement and put her away. Now they're not giving cause. They're just wanting to know what's lawful. Yeshua answers and says to them, well, because of your heart condition, this precept was allowed. But from the beginning of the creation, God made them male and female, and for this cause, a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall be one flesh. So then they are no more two but one. So basically his answer was, so whatever Yah has joined together, let no man put asunder. Now that is the greater principle, because that is the original intent, as the brother Ahwar was pointing to, I believe. This is what he wanted from the beginning, not to be broken up. Malachi 2 lets us know he hated putting away. Now check this out. So he left them with that answer. Now look at the students. When they get into the dojo, in the house, the disciples ask him again about the matter. Now look at, he's going to clarify to them what he didn't clarify to the in depth to those who were his enemy. But look at what he said to those who are his friends. He said to them, whoever shall put away his wife and marry another commit adultery against her. Now check this out. In Torah, the sister was bringing out earlier that it was almost impossible for a woman to be the one to bring up the charges of, I want a divorce. Why? Because in Torah law, even though it wasn't ordained of Yah, it was allowable for a man to deal with another woman and actually make her his wife. A man could legally in Israel have more than one wife. That was not committing adultery against the woman. But guess what was committing adultery against her the whole time? And Yeshua is coming to magnify this. When you get rid of her and you're going to take another one and replace her, you have left her out there because she never committed adultery in the first place. You didn't put her away because she committed adultery. And what the Pharisees are showing is what Yeshua came to do in fulfilling Torah. They were corrupting Torah. I'm telling you, if you do research, you will find these individuals were letting men put legal divorce paperwork on women who had not been proven to have slept around. And so Yeshua is bringing it back. Look, if a man do that and marry another, he is committing adultery against his woman, and the woman who puts away her husband to be married to another committeth adultery. So now, where does that come in? How does that all of a sudden come into play when in Hebrew Torah you could not find a woman putting away her husband? You can't find it one place, because now you have a corrupt practice where even now Roman law was creeping in and women could come and legally put their husbands away. Give unto Caesar what's Caesar's, but Yeshua is letting everyone know. God done winked at some stuff and we seen was corrupt, but I am here to set things in order. Unless adultery has been committed by a woman, you do not put her away unless you can prove she slept with someone. You cannot put her away. So in that context, I think Ahwar is trying to say, well, if that's the case, then how could Yeshua be advocating for divorce? Because if you could prove a woman committed adultery and it be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, the Sanhedrin still had a right to have her stoned. So going into the sister's inundation earlier when she asked, how do the judges come into play? Even when the family was brought into play in Torah law, they didn't just handle it Wild West style. It was eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth is justice for justice that always happened in front of the judges. So when the family brought the proof, notice who would whoop the man once they found out he was lying. It would be the elders of the city and not necessarily the family. So the family was involved, but the family and the man, the guilty party, still had to come before judges and elders so that the family could represent.
Man, Brother Zadok line actually just dropped, guys. Zadok, of course, when you get a chance, make sure you call back. And actually, fortunately, I was able to add another half an hour on the line so everybody can hear. Okay, so we good. We can, bypass the overtime part of the show and got additional 30 minutes on the air. So once again, you know that number, 646-716-7320. Let's go to the phone lines in the meanwhile, though. Let's go to, I think Zadok is back. Hold on. All right, go ahead, Zay.
Well, that must have been the Ruach saying, all right, son, you got long-winded. They get the point. So I'm going to shut up and let that be.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 832-528. You're live on air.
What's happening? This Black Jesus Minister. How y'all doing?
Right.
Anyway, I'm kind of late to the show, and I just got a question to the panel, and if everybody or whoever want to chime in on this question, what are your positions on contemporary modern-day polygamy? Should it be practiced or should it not be practiced?
I believe it deserves its own seat on the on the panel. I think we should devote a segment to that, and I think that we talked about doing that. I think if we do a disservice to kind of get into that right now, but for certain, I would love to interrogate that topic for you and give you the kind of time and attention that you deserve on that answer. But if someone else feels that they can give you a concise, right now, a little nibble at it, I would love to hear their input on that too.
All right. Anybody else want to take a stab at that?
Yeah. Anybody want to jump in? And
I'll say something. This is 1 Corinthians 7:29. But this I say, brethren, time is short, it remaineth, that both they that have wives be as though they had none. The question is it lawful for a man to have more than one wife? Yes. Is it wise or is it appropriate for this time period? No. Why? Because there's so much immorality going on, lying, all kind of fornication, all kind of crazy stuff. And number two, when men had multiple wives, we were sovereign, okay? We had our own land, we was under our own laws, and our government and our enemies wasn't ruling over us. So would it be wise to do this in your captivity? I say no. But the days are going to come, like it says in Isaiah 4, verse 1, in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man. So is that coming back into play? Yes, sir. That's it.
And this is Emunah. This is what I alluded to, and this is why I said that. And I agree with Sister Mayanah that this is a whole nother topic. I want to thank the brother for asking that question. But here goes the dichotomy for me. There was a clear and concise. And much love to Brother Ahwar. But here the clear and concise answer: is it lawful? Yes. But when it comes to divorce, it's referring back to Genesis. But when we refer back to Genesis, we do not see that institution of multiple partners to one man. The same way we don't see divorce. This is why I say if we're going to walk the line of truth, we have to do it in every respect. And so if we're going to give the law allowance for a man to have more than one partner, then we also have to concede that it is lawful for a man to divorce his wife under the conditions of Deuteronomy 24:1. We cannot play hopscotch from testament to testament depending on what's right for us. So I appreciate the question. I also agree that it deserves this whole other show. But like I said, that's why I said what I said earlier, that then a lot of things will come into question, what became permissible and what not. So that's my answer to the question, that if it is permissible in the same vein that we're talking about for a man to divorce, I know the question was about polygamy, but I'm just bringing it back to where we get real hazy. We shading right now. We doing artwork. Because, you know what I'm saying, on one hand and not the other hand. So that was just my input. I agree that it takes a whole nother show to really dive into that conversation, and that's one that often everybody likes to hear, but some of these other issues often get drowned out. So I appreciate that, and prayerfully in the coming weeks we will tackle that subject.
Okay.
Yeah, most definitely want to, add that in. Go ahead, Zadok. Go ahead, Zadok.
Yeah, I just want to say that prayerfully, y'all willing, I would love to be a part of that conversation. But I also want to say this, that question can be loaded. The reason being is because I don't talk about the experience of being a follower of the Most High from an American context. And a lot of times we asking that question thinking of the so-called 50 states on this little piece of continent over here. I know brothers from Africa and from Arabia who are Christian, who grown up in traditions and cultures where ever since they can remember, men have had more than one wife. Also, women have grown up in cultures where men have had more than one wife. So their take on it, we're not talking about abuse. Every time we talk about this, let's not think about the Taliban or something like that. That is not the reality everywhere. But we, who only make up about 6% of the Earth's population as Americans, I don't care what your ethnic group is, you have grown up in this culture. We don't usually talk about it in the lens of the 95% of the over 7 billion that live on this planet. And so I just want to say this. If you meet a brother who is a Christian, and if you meet sisters who are Christians and have been that for generations, and that man come over to this country as a refugee with his 2 or 3 wives and his 17 kids, don't speak against them people, because you're going to speak from your experience and how your mama got dogged out, not necessarily from a place where people come from arranged marriages, where they're used to women being virgins and protected by the family until they're given a man, where a man actually works hard and takes part of his life assets and give them to a family to this day for his women. But a lot of us don't even have that experience. So when we ask that question, are we asking it in the context of American thought, or are we asking it in the context of the human experience? Because the answer isn't so easy to give when we talk in the greater context of humanity.
Can I get in on this?
Go ahead.
I intentionally waived it because I know that if you get intense, and I'm going to respect that it needs to not, we need not to be discussing about it. But let the record show that when we're talking about this, we're not talking. I would wager that we're not going to talk about it from the human experience. We need to talk about it from a Hebraic experience. And what we want to do is emulate the Hebraic culture. And maybe my brother doesn't have the experience of talking to myself or Emunah, but we would not. We would definitely give you a holistic discussion about it. My background being anthropology, of course, I would bring in all of these other nations that have practiced it in their spaces and for their reasons, but even that would not be the same as interrogating it from a Hebraic perspective, because we don't want to emulate other nations. We want to emulate what our ancestors did in our Hebraic cultural context. So when we do dedicate time to this, I want to rest assure the members of the panel and those that are listening that we will do it from the perspective of our ancestors. We won't, I for one, dislike extremely when women use terms like I think, I want, I believe, I don't like. Those things are irrelevant and unnecessary. Instead, you will hear things from according to Scripture, and Scripture provides, and these are the reasons and the positions, and we will answer this question from my most concise response to polygyny in modernity is I think that it is the way that it is practiced in modernity does not reflect our Hebraic cultural context, and unless it is going to do that, it is not appropriate. Except for in the instances where it accurately reflects our cultural context, it is not correct.
All right. And I also wanted to come and again reiterate that in this conversation, for those who have joined us, because the brother said he was new in on the conversation, that the conversation was, does the Messiah do away with or abolish divorce? And earlier on, when Brother Ahwar opened up, like he usually does, he said that about what is a proverbial saying about the forest, and when you're lost, to go back to the beginning. But I find it, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, that I find it very interesting that we only go back to the beginning on certain things, but we do not go back to the beginning on all things. And for fairness of those who are listening, you understand, and for truth and balance to be restored in the earth, we have to be willing to put our personal feelings aside and choose or be realistic about when we're going to approach the text for what it says based on what we choose to do. You understand what I'm saying? So if we're going to stay pre the fall, we're going to stay pre the fall. But if we're going to go post-fall, which is the conversation that we've been having in the here and now, you understand what I'm saying? And we have to establish where exactly are we having this conversation, because like I said again, and I just think for the audience, just let the record show, although we're not in court, that on one instance, before the question, you know, we're depending on who's talking, we're before and after the ideal. But on the other side, we're not on the ideal anymore. We're on what has been permissible, what has been allowed. If we look in the book of Deuteronomy, if we look in the case, that wasn't what was being said about divorce. It was like, who the Most High put together, let no man put asunder. You know, I heard what Moshe said, but that was because of hardness of heart. But then one would ask the question, why in the world did a man allow to have more than one woman?
Oh,
the Most High said it was good but that's what I'm saying, we're gonna diverse, so we definitely keep that on. But that's just something that I wanted to bring forth again and reiterate, that we're going to start to see the separation of our personal feelings and emotion as opposed to like what the sister Mayanah just said, thus saith Torah. Or, you understand? I relinquish the mic at this point. Brother Sam?
Can I say something about that? Oh.
All right. Hey, Brother.
Yeah, I just want to say we got to keep in mind that in the beginning, the amount of people that was then in the evolution of people, and we got to remember too that we are holy people where a lot of times if you do the math on how unclean a woman would be according to our laws, okay, and then how strong the nation was how powerful your military was, how the evolution of the nation became. That's why multiple wives were necessary, because we dealt with cleanliness. You know, the woman had a female, she was unclean for a certain amount of time, or if she had a male. So you had other women doing certain things. She wasn't allowed to go certain places. So there was a lot of reasons why we had multiple wives, not just for sexual purposes, but for many different reasons. But that's all I want to say.
All right, people, we got a lot of people standing by. A lot of people just called in against pressing number 1, and that's what it's all about, you know, getting some of your questions on the air. You know that number, 646-716-7320. For the new callers out there, the only rule that I have is that there's no foul language. Got to keep it clean and keep it professional when you call in. Believe it or not, there's people listening with their children and even the elderly checking out the show. So we appreciate, professionalism. So let's go to 240-779, live in air.
How everybody doing tonight, Brother A?
Pretty good.
My question was, hey, how y'all doing? My question was for, I think Emunah. I don't want to jack your name up. Is it Emunah? Oh yeah, Emunah.
Emunah.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned something about King David. You said that he wasn't an exception because he didn't get caught in the act. And I just wanted to know the chapter.
That was me.
That was just,
I'm sorry.
No problem. That was
Mayanah. Yeah, there you go, Mayanah. I just wanted to know what can you give me the chapter and verse where it says that a person had to been caught in the act of adultery to be, put to death?
In Leviticus, what is it, 2010, sis? Leviticus 2010 is where you have to be caught. When both of you get caught, both the male and the female have to be caught, and then they're killed together. So that would have to happen. That's in Leviticus 2010, and you would add to that Deuteronomy 22:22 to show that there have to be witnesses, and when the witness is stoned. So the verses that you're requesting from me is Leviticus 20 and Deuteronomy 22:22.
Deuteronomy 22, that's probably the one. Because in Leviticus, in 2010, it says, and the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulterer shall be surely put to death.
All right.
But I just want to find out where it says that they had to be caught. Like if somebody had to catch them, actually, see them doing that in order to be put to death. Because, I mean...
Did you find that in Deuteronomy 22:22?
Deuteronomy 22. That's right. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. If a man be found lying with a woman married to her husband, then they shall both of them die. Both the man that lay with the woman. Oh, okay.
You good?
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Can I come in on that?
Okay.
Yeah. When you read Deuteronomy 22:15 as well, that girl got put to death because she was found out not to be a virgin. So that means she slept around, okay, and didn't tell her father, and she slept with that man, which was supposed to be her husband. Okay, and
hello?
she got killed for that. Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, that was you saying? We can hear you.
Oh, yeah. So she got put to death. She got put to death for that, and she wasn't caught in the act. And going back to David, he thought about committing adultery, and he set that man up to get killed. So he got judged for the evil thought, okay? Because technically the man was dead already. Then he took the woman, like it's saying. But the evil thought he had that he plotted to get her when he was alive. That's why the Most High judged him. But if he would have took that woman while the husband was alive, he would have got put to death. That's it.
Can I share a little bit on that one? As what Brother Paul just said concerning the David, I'm inclined to agree with Sister Mayanah that David actually took her while Uriah was still alive, and we could find that by looking at the verse when he sees her. There are witnesses because he calls his men and asks them, yo, who shorty is this? And they tell him. They was like, yo, it's Uriah shorty. And he was like, word? He knows who Uriah is. And then he sends for her. These are witnesses, but like the Sister Mayanah said earlier, you have to have people who are willing to testify. This is why people say people get away with murder. Because if you don't have somebody willing to testify, you don't die by the law because the judgment cannot be brought forth. So the man was alive, and David said, hey, homie, after the word came back from Bathsheba, hey, I'm pregnant. And David, in the Caribbean, we call it a jacket. Like you trying to give somebody a child that's not theirs. You understand what I'm saying? So David wanted to give this man a jacket. And he was like, yo, go home to your wife. And he was like, how can I go home to my wife and we in war? So David now started to say, boy, if this belly start to show, it's going to be a problem. I'm sorry, that's Emunah ad-lib. And then he sends a note and sends him into the heat of the battle to get struck down. So the Most High sends his prophet Nathan to say, hey, tell him this parable. And when he tells him the parable, David's like, yo, that dude should be taken out. And then he says, it's you, David. You took this man's wife. You understand? If you would have asked me for anything, I would have given it to you. And the Most High said, what you have done in secret, and because there's nobody who's testifying against you, meaning no judgment, I'm going to do in public. And that's why his concubines were defiled in the sight of Israel. So I beg to differ that Uriah was alive. David actually not only committed adultery, conspired to get him killed. You understand? And then we go on to the story. But the reason again, just like in the story within the New Testament, the reason that he doesn't get put to death is because just like the scriptures that we were referred to, there was no proper trial. No one brought him to trial. No one brought him forward to put him on charges of adultery. The husband couldn't have done it because he was dead. So he did commit adultery, he just didn't get caught. And he did get caught because the Most High saw him, and that's why the Most High dealt with him in the way in which he dealt with him. And so I just wanted to submit that to the conversation, because oftentimes we hear it was mercy, but the reality is the Lord did not provide for him to be judgment. And I just want to say one more thing, is that the Most High said, this is one of my problems with you, Israel. You did not keep my judgments. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? That means that when we saw unrighteousness, we didn't deal with it. The judges didn't deal with it. They turned a blind eye. They took bribes. This is what corrupted the land, because people were getting away with doing wickedness, and nobody was bringing them to trial, and nobody was dealing with the matter. So I just wanted to submit that at that point. I relinquished the mic.
Let me go to the next caller real quick. Let's go to 321-614. You're live on the air. 321-614. We get some feedback. Yeah, we get some feedback from that one, so gotta go to the next person. 443, you're back on. 443-815, you're back on the air.
Yeah, I wanted to say that if we go back to the beginning, we have to name two people, the first husband and the first wife, Adam and Eve. And just for the record, Adam only had one wife, so polygamy is unlawful, okay? So we could get that straight. I don't need Moses to tell me, because I have Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve is a clear picture of what God intended marriage to be, between one man and woman. Of course, I'm not going to get any applause on that. But if we look at Adam and Eve, we see that. And then in Romans chapter 9, verse 10, Paul says that not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one man, even by her father Isaac. One thing I know is about Paul, I consider him a Pharisee. I think he's a Pharisee because he calls himself a Pharisee in the book of Acts, and he calls himself the son of a Pharisee, so he knows the law. He's very skilled in the law. He calls Isaac his father. And what I find key about this, if you study the life of Isaac, Isaac is the son, the direct son of Abraham. So we can call ourselves sons of Abraham. If we call ourselves sons of Abraham, then we should be like Isaac. Isaac only had one wife. And if we, and so Isaac is a good example. Remember, Abraham placed Isaac on the altar, but, there was a process. Again, going back to the process, he just didn't have one wife. It was a process. We putting our children on the altar, we obeying God, and we doing what he called us to do, so that's that other piece of it, that process. But Abraham had more than one wife. He had Sarah, then he had Hagar, and, that's where that divorce comes in. But Hagar never got a divorce certificate because, why? She was a slave. She was a bondservant. So, again, she was put away without a divorce certificate. That goes back to the lady's point. You got somebody say, I like to give live examples of the law. I don't just quote the law. I like to give examples, real-life examples. I'm quoting people, Hosea and Gomer, Adam and Eve. I'm giving you Isaac and Rebekah, real biblical example. I'm not just teaching. I'm giving you real-life examples. You look at their lives, you'll see that Isaac went through some stuff. So it was a process. So he had one wife. So, he was the only one that was able to do it. And, I look at Isaac, it's crazy how he was able to do it. But, the other ones, Jacob, his son, Jacob and Esau, and then his father Abraham, they weren't able to do it. They all had multiple wives. So I know we ignore Isaac and think about all the other examples. But, like Solomon says, you'll find one man out of 1,000 that's righteous. So, it's only one, very few of us get it right, So, but most of us are going to get it wrong. Men, most of us going to get it wrong. Only maybe 1 out of 1,000,000 going to get it right. So I just wanted to say that, although only one of us might get it right, it's still the right way to live. Although most of us going to have multiple wives. Let's go ahead and say it. Most of us going to end up having multiple wives, even the ones we put away. Because that's really what we're doing over here in America. We have one wife, we put all the other women away. That's really what's going on. But we try to hide it, say he was unsaved and all that. But it's still the message is still the same. You put people away. So, a lot of fornication didn't happen in the Old Testament. A lot of stuff was considered rape. It wasn't really fornication. It was called rape because that's what happened in Shechem. It probably was fornication, but they considered rape because why? He took advantage of her because, I guess he was wealthy, whatever the case may be. But we got to understand the culture, and back then it was more so called rape than it was fornication. But anyway, I just wanted to submit that to you. I'm giving you Adam and Eve, Isaac and Rebecca, and Hosea, and I would like people to comment on those 3 marriages. All right, thank you.
Thank you for that. But can I just ask you what the caller said on our topic? I won't pursue the polygyny thing because I started with it. But what he did, he brought up Hagar, which is good because when you look into how Hagar was sent away, she gets Salah. She does not get Paraswish. She gets Salah. She doesn't have. She isn't considered to have had a legitimate marriage. Her marriage is illegitimate, therefore she doesn't get the 2 parts that are necessary for a legitimate divorce because it didn't meet the Hebraic standards because there were other legal standards that were met, but the Hebraic standard for marriage was not met. Therefore, the Hebraic standard for divorce was not necessary. So, in terms of our topic today, that was a great point that the caller brought the attention to.
All right, you won't have like a few minutes on the air, people. So, again, if you have any quick questions or comments, and Zadok, if you're out there, you got to press number 1. I saw that your call dropped earlier. You got to press number 1. And if you're out there, brother, we can add you in the conversation. There's no more questions for the people or comments. We'll get some last, okay, I see you, brother. We'll get some last words from a special guest. Okay, we have another caller. Let's go to 347-465. Live on air.
Hey, shalom, brothers and sisters.
Hey, shalom.
This is I just got in at the end, about a half an hour ago, and I was listening because this is a very controversial subject when it comes to divorce. When it comes to can a man put away his wife for every cause? Because I've had sisters come to me from other congregations in the past that basically said that they know the scriptures say that a man can only put away his wife for adultery or fornication, but then some sisters came up to me and said, basically they got put away and they didn't commit that. And the scriptures say that if a man puts away his wife, he commits adultery. My question is, how is a woman still bound to a man that put her away unjustly? That's the question that always used to come to me, because that law applies to a man putting away his wife for adultery. And even when it says, if you marry a woman that is put away, this is where the controversy happens. Because at one time I believed that a man put away his wife, and she didn't, even though it was unjust, that she still has to remain unmarried. But when you look at that scripture in this context, when it says if a man marry a woman that is put away, he commits adultery, because that woman was put away for adultery. It's not talking about if a woman's put away unjustly. And this is where I get into conflict, because some groups teach that a man could just do anything to his wife and put her away for any reason, and she got to abide by that. She got to abide by that and just be by herself. And I don't think that's right. It's not even what I think. It's the fact that doesn't sound just. That doesn't sound, right. And that's basically what I had to say about that. And you also got to look at the scripture on 1 Corinthians 7. It talks about if an unbelieving depart, it says a brother or sister is not under bondage. You know what that means? That means if a brother or sister, if you have a man and a woman, and one of the spouses don't believe, and the other one decides to leave, the scriptures say a brother or sister, not just a brother or sister, is not under bondage. That's an example of, that sister is not in bondage. That means that sister is not married to that man no more. So
let's get some answers to them questions. Okay. Let's get some answers to them. Let's go to Zadok real quick. There's Zadok. Yeah. Hold on, man. I gotta open you up. There you go, Zadok. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
You loud and clear.
You can. Okay. Yeah. Respectfully, I just want to address something that there's a time and a season for everything. Because I thought I was going to get to respond to the last brother. You can't point to Adam and Eve and say that plural marriage is unlawful just because you feel that's a better example. That's great. Just like Paul and them said, like, look, we have power to live off to live of the flock. But he said, to be a better example, we didn't do that. We weren't chargeable to any of you. We worked with our hands, but he still didn't take away the right that's there. So some things are better, I will say. And Ahwar said that. Is it lawful? Yes. Is it expedient or wise all the time? No. I agree with that. But just because it's not expedient in my eye or wise for me personally, don't mean that I'm putting the next man on that standard. And there are many things in Torah that after Israel became a nation, there were things fathers practiced that would have been actually not lawful once the nation was formed. How Abraham got Sarah coming out of Syrian law in the land they come from isn't necessarily the same thing that their children in the generation that came out of Egypt, once they were given legislation under Moshe, would have had. So I just want to point this out because once again, we're making things that we're calling Hebraic totally exclusive to them. Plural marriages, there are things, even the Hebrew language itself is an amalgamation of a few other languages of the A&E, of the ancient Near East. It's not this pure language that no one else knew. So it's many things that we put as Hebrew culture that isn't necessarily Hebrew culture. It was ancient Near Eastern culture, and the Hebrews had their way of regulating what other nations around them did in the exact same way, but they regulated some things differently. So when you look at a woman, I believe Paul was clear in 1 Corinthians 7. When you have someone who doesn't believe, how is it that you can really walk in a faith walk with them? I'm going to tell you this. If a man leaves a woman who comes unto the Most High out of her sinful life and she walks rightly, and this man is not going to serve her God, but yet he still wants his woman, stay with your mate. But if this man leaves her and he run off and have a whole another couple families and he ain't dealing with her no more, I believe that there is a mercy involved that may not have been exclusive to Torah. Why? Because the whole audience isn't a Torah-based audience. I mean, when we deal with these things, you can't just teach these to people who are Israelite. You have to teach these things to people who don't grow up under that covenant and they don't grow up under Torah law. And they could be saved and they didn't have to circumcise themselves to be saved, nor did they have to start keeping the law of Moses in order to be saved. Even in Torah itself, in Exodus 12, let me give the Passover law for an example. A stranger or a foreigner who could have lived in your land and been a business person in your land could not be forced to keep Passover, for instance. But those who were bought of your money had to. Now, if the one who sojourned in your land from their own free will came to you and said, yo, we want to be like you, if they agreed to circumcise their whole house, then they could come near and deal with Passover. But other than that, they weren't exonerated from being sojourners, meaning temporary dwellers in your land, and be forced to do certain things. And it was the same thing under Yeshua. You could not come to an audience that was an amalgamation of Israelites who didn't grow up under Hebrew culture and Gentiles who definitely didn't grow up under Hebrew culture and try to throw all of this Torah idea on them as this is what you have to do. This is why Romans tells us that the powers that be are ordained of Yah. And when you go to other people's land, you have to respect the power and authority they've been given in their own land. For instance, Paul and them were stranded on islands with barbarians. Now, I'm pretty sure that on that island, they saw idolatry. They saw things that were contrary to how they lived. And Paul said they were treated so well in that place during a shipwreck that their hospitality was admirable. But I'm pretty sure Paul didn't walk up and be like, well, hold on, I'm going up in this lodge. Y'all going to stop worshiping these gods and y'all going to stop doing this? No, that's not necessarily the case. So once again, I want to say that when we talk about marriage, if we're going to talk about it in the Hebrew idea, that's fine. But that idea cannot be applied to the whole world. Why? Because the whole world was not forced to have to keep Hebrew Torah in order to be saved. And this is why Paul could talk on one hand to a Hebrew audience and then turn around and talk to an audience with Greek culture and say, look, keep your mate if they want to dwell with you, because the whole purpose is to win them to Christ. But if this person going to walk off and they going to leave you and they don't want to be with you no more, I say in that case, this is a judgment, in that case, a brother or sister is not held in that bondage because this person ain't going to come back to deal with you. So are you to live the rest of your life some lonely woman or man because some unbeliever walked off and left you? Man that went off, he got a whole nother woman, got 2 or 3 kids. It's different situations, and I don't think that these things should be painted with generality brushes. Hebraic law is one thing, but Hebraic law is not the only law on the planet. And you got people coming from different cultures that's coming into this righteousness. So I'm going to say to the brother, look, if you can dwell with your woman right, them sisters who were let go by these clowns who actually used the Torah against them, Zadok ben Israel would not be the one to say, unless that man repent, I'm not the one telling them sisters to go back to them clowns. That's real talk.
Let's go to Mayanah. Mayanah, got.
Well, to answer that brother's question, in the case of a sister who the man has departed, the law is merciful and perfect, as we already established. What would make her free from him is what we discussed earlier. You did say you didn't hear the earlier question. If she leaves and receives a writ of divorce, she's free to marry in any time and space. So if that other person, if she leaves or he leaves her, if he said, listen, I forfeit my right to you, I'm forfeiting my obligations to you, you and I are not together anymore, and the ties are perfectly severed under every law, she has the right to remarry. If the situation is bad and she escapes him, but she doesn't go, you have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's. You run, and I keep calling them freedom papers. You run, if in the context of slavery, you ran away and you got caught without freedom papers, you just got caught up and returned back to where you came from. But if you could produce papers, then they let you pass. So if she can get this guy to sever ties with her and do it across the board appropriately, the same way she followed protocol to get married, she follows protocol to get divorced, and she's free to leave. That's Torah. Torah says she is free to remarry. And I mean, this idea of being every man for every to every man being that whatever, I forget how Paul phrases it now, it escapes me, but that's good if you're trying to be a politician, or we're trying to establish righteousness, and righteousness is not all over the place. Righteousness is consistent. The Most High says He doesn't change. He doesn't change depending upon the audience. To say that when there are travelers in our midst, that we don't bog them down to whatever. I'm positive. I give the example that he gave of Paul going to this place among this word barbarians, and he received great hospitality. I'm sure that he didn't say great hospitality passport. He still maintained what was appropriate to his culture. He stayed within cultural context, irrespective of where he was. So the idea that we're in a different place, other people are doing other things, we don't decide that righteousness is flexible. Righteousness is not flexible. And the Most High made the one law. He is the Most High, not just of Israel, but of everybody. He told Abraham that you're going to eventually go and teach all these other people. You're going to be a light unto the other nations. So it's always the Most High is not just the Most High of Israel. He has a preference for us, but the expectation is that every nation shall bow. Everybody has to go and return to the Most High because He created everybody. He created all the nations. They don't get a pass. I'm afraid I think that I find that problematic to say that the other nations get a pass. So if we agree that there's nothing wrong with the laws that the Most High has provided for Israel, Israel is the template, Israel is the blueprint, everybody else eventually has to get in line. And we're supposed to say, if anyone is going to defend the Most High, it has to be us, no?
Let's go to Ahwar the Swordsman, and after that we're going to go to Emunah, and after that we're going to get some final words from all the special guests. Got Ahwar.
Right. What we have to take in consideration is coming out the darkness into the light. Okay? We're in gross darkness, but we're coming in the light. Now, once you come in the light, it says this. This is Hebrews 10, verse 26. For if we sin willfully, after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, So if men are in this truth and have understanding and putting these women away, you're going to be held accountable for that, okay? Judgment Day, judgment is coming, okay? The earth is about to be judged. So what we do now in our rehearsals is being recorded, okay? None of the elders are here that were putting people to death back then because they all became corrupt. So the heavenly host took over that. So when the angels in Christ come back, they're going to come back killing. So if you don't have your house in order, you're going to feel that wrath. So now is our time to get back to the righteousness. Like it says, for if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. So we got to understand that. Yeah, we got people coming out of this. This is Ephesians 2. And ye have ye quickened who were dead in trespasses and sins. A lot of us is coming out of that. It says, where in time past you walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience, among whom also we all had our conversation. So we all come from Satan worship, to be honest with you. So now that people are coming to this truth, once you come back to this truth, you are now marked. That's what I would tell people. Start walking in those righteous laws. That's what I would say.
All right, Emunah.
Yeah, thank you so much once again. Great conversation. I know we're going to come back for the last comments, but I just wanted to just bring it back. I'm always coming, bring it back to the top of the conversation because it all plays into the conversation. I just wanted to say, from my respect, it is a matter of, if we're speaking about divorce as we are, as it relates to what is said in the New Testament, and as it says in the Old Testament, so-called Old Testament, we also have to look at marriage. And as we established at other spaces and times within this series, is that today, for those who are listening, who are stuck in spaces and trapped by erroneous doctrine, this is who I'm speaking to, that these scriptures are being used out of context because, to begin with, in the first place, you're not really married oftentimes if it is not in the right way, and in actuality, it's harlotry. And we established that at another time. And so one has to be really honest with themselves and, yes, take our sins before the Most High, like the Creator said, and confess these things. Like Brother Ahwar just said, we are coming back out of gross darkness. So we have to be able to confess and take off the rosy-colored glasses and stop calling stuff what it's not. And if it is not marriage, then it is not marriage. Marriage comes with rights, and it comes with certain things that you are supposed to expect. And so if you go into the street and no one knows you, if you go into bank areas or if you go into insurance offices and hospitals, or most I forbid, and no one knows you, if you cannot be on record to say your children are entitled to an inheritance, there is a problem. There might be that you are a concubine, truth be told, and you have no rights. And like Sister Mayanah said, at which point this becomes a moot point because you wouldn't even be divorced. You would just be sent away like Hagar. We have to be real, and that's just my thing, because like I said, many people have testified that women and men are coming to them with this issue. So my thing is, as we're coming out of this gross darkness, we have to be real. We have to speak truth, and we have to stop masking stuff and pretending that it is what it is not, and using scriptures to justify our own desires and then justify when we no longer desire. So I'll save the rest for the last comment. I relinquish the mic, Brother Sal.
Hallelujah.
All right, once again, another very powerful conversation and dialogue. I know you guys got a lot of truth and a lot of your eyes are open, and a lot of the things were brought out, and hopefully all your questions got answered. Just to let you guys know, I want to let you guys know about the next 3 relationship challenges coming up. So you can actually follow the schedule. We're going to do this every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So next Monday we're going to have Volume 5, and the topic will be, are men and women out of order? Are men and women out of order? And then, of course, the Monday after that, we're going to have another Volume 6 of the Relationship Challenge. The topic will be identifying problems in the Hebrew-Israelite relationship paradigm. All right, and after that, we're going to have another one on the Volume 7, interracial relationships. So that's what we're doing. Like I said, every show we'll let you guys, I guess, every show we'll let you guys know about three, because we have a lot of shows already booked and scheduled, a lot of topics already scheduled. So every show I'm going to do, we're going to, let you know what the next three shows coming up. So hopefully you guys stay tuned on Debate Talk Radio, and we're going to get some last words from the special guest. So let's start off with Ahwar the Swordsman. Last words.
Yeah, I wanted to say, man, this is a beautiful farm. I love y'all, man, the sisters, the brothers. And I look forward to more shows, man. I really look forward to this. This is good reasoning. And that's all I want to say, man.
I appreciate you. Mayanah, any last words?
Well, yeah, again, I want to say the honor to the Most High for allowing me to be in the company of such sincere and diligent siblings. And thank you for allowing me on the panel. And if there are any questions that I want to extend an invitation for them to go ahead and ask me on my Facebook page. I don't have any of my Twitter or IG information out there, but my Facebook page is open to you, and my email is thesoferet@gmail.com. You can ask me questions there as well. But if there are any questions at all about the things that I presented today, I'd be more than happy to expound on those and take your questions off air. So shalom, shalom family, thank you.
Shalom, Mayanah. We're going to see you next show. Zadok, any last words? Yeah, Zadok.
All praise and honor due to the Most High. I'm glad I was invited into this discussion because even though I've been in a marriage for so long, I've been legally married for 16 years. You feel me? I understand the importance of it, and sometimes I believe there is a travesty of so-called Hebrew law. Cats who are desiring to be teachers of the law and they don't know whereof they affirm. The sister said something that was poignant, where you could look at Hebrew law all day, but I'll tell you what, if you're gonna marry a woman, any sister listening, do not consider yourself a man's wife, and don't let no man egregiously teach you scripture in error if he ain't willing to go to City Hall or willing to go before your family and friends and his family and friends, and y'all have a marriage license according to whatever state you live in, which will be backed by the federal government. Because what happens is sisters are being tossed to the side. They have no legal right. But in Israel, women had legal rights to the things of her husband. If he died and she became a widow, the things that belong to him become hers as well. These women are in these camps. These dudes is talking about, when I lay with you, you my wife according to Torah, which is a lie. These sisters be with these men 10, 15 years. Then when he get tired of her, she get tossed to the side. And as the sister unfortunately said, you're nothing but a Hagar. You have no legal right to nothing. You can't take him to no court. Every state does not have common law, wife law. So even though you could be Hebrew all day, you better go to your state of Illinois, your state of New York, your state of Florida, your state of California, wherever you are, and let this man know. Until you're willing to sign that paper, homie, through witnesses, you ain't touching me. And a lot of these sisters are being caught out there. And it's a lot of brothers who want to do right by a sister and have been misled by erroneous teaching. So please, 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 see how the powers that be that are ordained by Yah, because it will be a terror unto an evil work that want to corner a sister somewhere in a house somewhere talking about you my wife, and this man ain't legally connecting himself to her. Insurance, life insurance, health insurance, all kind of things are tied to it. You don't want somebody mama coming, sister, your man done passed away or he hurt in the hospital and you think you his wife, and here come his mama and his sisters talking about they are legally his proxies. You're going to be hurt then and realize that you shouldn't listen to foolishness. So thank you for letting me be on here tonight. Them sisters are amazing. I'm going to be checking them out more. Sister Emunah and the Sister Mayanah, man, I wish more women in Israel would get the opportunity to get heard, because these sisters are doing the Creator justice tonight. Thank you. And peace to the Swordsman, too.
Yeah, appreciate you, Zadok. And hopefully we get you back on the panel in the future, the Relationship Challenge. Let's go to Emunah, some last words. And again, she's the creator of this particular segment. We definitely appreciate Emunah Israel for coming up with this segment on Debate Talk Radio. So any last words you want to share with the people? Go ahead.
Okay. I want to say all praise be to the Most High, the Holy One of creation, the Holy One of Israel, I want to thank everybody for taking the opportunity to just vibe on this conversation. I want to thank all of the beautiful panel members for, peaceably coming to the table so that we can break bread, with no ego, and so that we can exchange ideas and conversation and edify one another and prayerfully the audience. And give thanks to Brother Sal for inviting me on his platform and giving me the space to share my portion, which is very much healing. That's, if anybody knows me, that's all I talk about is healing the wounds, and we're helping in my portion to restore the nation or contribute to that restoration. So once again, as Brother Zadok so poignantly pointed out, we have to edify ourselves. Even in speaking about the divorce conversation, it is a moot point if there wasn't a marriage conversation. And so as much energy as we put into it is the same amount of energy we have to put into making sure and praying like the servant of Abraham did to get the right woman in the first place. It says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And I've said it before, you don't just find a good thing every day. So our thought processes have to change and be elevated, the man as well as the woman. And sometimes we're just too thirsty for anybody that we find ourselves in dark corners, and then we try to use the scripture to bring ourselves out. So once again, I pray that you were edified in this. If you have any questions, I'm Emunah Yisrael on all social media. And once again, hopefully you'll join us next week, and I pray everybody have a blessed week.